Welcome aboard. It's another beautiful day and we're right here on the AM show. What can you expect this morning? We'll be telling you in a bit. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I do this together with...
I'm Sweetie Abochin. It's always our pleasure to welcome you to the start of a brand new day. So quickly, we'll start with the AM news. And after that, we'll review the newspapers. And to help us do that, Nanaya Sapong is from the Movements for Change. Afenyo-Markin is former GJA president. And after that, we'll bring you AM Sport. Then our big stories.
Well, when we get into our big stories, a police officer has tragically drowned in the River Afenyo in an operation against illegal mining, and hopes are fading in the search of survivors at the Mpasetia mining pit collapse incident as well, as community members abandon the search. We'll be telling you more about that. But in the related incident, Sweetie.
Yes, we know that the Enchi District Court has overturned its earlier decision to release 2 excavators and other mining equipment seized from illegal miners operating in the Boyne Forest Reserve after public outrage and upon admission of the court that it lacked jurisdiction to release the earth-moving machines. This morning, we continue to count the cost of Galamsey and its ravaging spray. Well,
you'd want to join us with your thoughts on it. LI2462. Should it go in its entirety or should it just be amended? Among the other issues that we're contemplating this morning, we're going hard on illegal mining. And remember, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. They lead the way in terms of real estate. On that note, stick and stay. Sweetie Abachi will be serving you the news up next.
Across Ghana's 16 regions and around the world on the Joy News channel and myjoyonline.com, this is the AM News. We're also live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, on X Spaces, on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm Sweetie Abochi. Let's get into the details. Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Governs Abuja, has directed local contractors, First Sky and Oswald Investments to urgently fix the slot at Sherman roundabouts to Afenyo and Temamoto Way to Dowenya roads. Frustration mounts as the uncompleted stretches trap commuters in endless gridlock, blanket them in dust and stretch patience to the limit. Kweku Asante joined the minister on a first-hand assessment and reports.
Traffic, eternal gridlock at Dowenya and Afenyo, an all too familiar torment for thousands of road users. Narrow, crumbling road stretches, the agony of a few kilometers into hours of frustration. For years, this has been the story, one of slow-moving construction, dashed hopes, and a community on the edge of disillusionment.
I haven't seen much work, especially since we left, in terms of Ashama runabout to beyond Afenyo. There were spots that we thought they could have remedied up to now, they haven't.
In a bid to provide some relief, the minister has directed 2 local contractors to carry out immediate spot maintenance. The goal to offer some breathing space while the main construction resumes.
And immediately, I'm asking First Sky Group to help MMU to remedy all that we can do to ease the problem on the how do you call it, the motorway runabout towards Central University. And immediately, I'm asking Oswald to also work on the Ashama runabout to beyond Michelle Camp.
For residents, this is not just another promise, it's a lifeline. They are watching closely.
From Dowenya to Afenyo, Master, that's our headache. It's about 4-kilometer road, but you spend more than an hour to get there. So with what the minister have said, please, we are most grateful. This is our headache.
For now, the people of Dowenya and Afenyo, they wait, stuck in gridlock, hoping the wheels of progress will finally move faster than the traffic. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante.
President John Dramani Mahama has urged the contractor working on the desilting of the Odo drain to speed up efforts ahead of the rainy season. During a tour of flood-prone areas in the Greater Accra region, he also ordered Kitech Motors to remove silt and restore a Ramsar site and water retention basin at Malam Junction. The president directed the Regional Security Council to enforce compliance and remove buildings obstructing waterways.
President John Mahama toured several flood-prone areas including Achimota, Malam Junction, Kaneshi First Light, and Odo Drain at Circle as part of efforts to tackle flooding in Accra. He was accompanied by members of the Anti-Flood Task Force chaired by Deputy Chief of Staff and Task Force Head Stan Dogbe. At Malam Junction, Stan Dogbe expressed concerns over a private business, Kitech Motors, illegally filling a Ramsar site and a water retention basin, warning that it could worsen flooding after heavy rains.
So you are selling the Ramsar site to a private company, and you are here to defend the fact that the company is filling the place up and causing problems. And you want us to control this, Mr. President. I think that the task force that we've gone around with hydrology, we've gone around water resources, we've gone around. The challenge here is that over 1 million that which is being filled consistently by the company. 2 companies here and then the VIP on the other side. They are the ones that are closing up the retention. So if you go to Blue Lagoon, which we have to drive through the other, every house there, the water enters into the river. Every house. So most of you see is green from the last green, but the drain that President Mills constructed, it's choked right there because the water can't flow into the city. So if the chiefs sold the land, the private organization, how do you get defending the fact that they sold land and somebody is dredging a small piece? Because the effect is not going to be, as Mr. Mokon said the last time, we can do all the works that we are currently doing up there. If this siltation continues, and you can see that they are going.
In response, President Mahama ordered Kitech Motors to remove the silt and restore the area to prevent further environmental damage.
Because they're creating destruction for other people's properties and even loss of lives. Sometimes when it floods heavily, we lose human lives. And so it's not because we don't have a sympathy for people like that, but we must enforce the bylaws. And the point is, the assembly here, how did you sit and allow this to happen? Can you imagine the volume of water that this place alone can hold when it rains? And so if you fill it up and you say there should just be a drain passing through, the drain cannot contain that water. And so let's do what we have to do. They should remove all this, and it should be at the cost of the people who did it. They should take this back where they brought it from.
The tour continued at the Kaneshi First Light, where the president urged contractors to speed up drainage works ahead of the rainy season. Finally, at the Odo Drain, President Mahama called on the dredging contractors to accelerate their work to mitigate flood risks.
These garage projects for desilting the major drains were given since last year. It is clear that all of them are behind schedule. And from what I have seen, these drains are not going to be ready before the rains open up. And if they aren't, it means that we must expect that there will be severe flooding this season. I would have thought that the contractors will take advantage of the dry season and work as quickly as possible so that we would have been ahead with these projects by now. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And so we just have to caution citizens of Accra that there's going to be severe flooding because of the delay in these projects. But we have to do everything to alleviate destruction of property and loss of life as much as possible. But I've charged the Garage Secretariat and the Hydrology Section and the Ministry to pay constant attention to make sure that all the projects that have been awarded under Garage to make Accra resilient from flooding are speeded up as quickly as possible so that we can minimize the flooding.
Now, the technical committee proposes to the government to break ECG's operations into sections and assign them to private entities as part of efforts to reform Ghana's power distribution sector. Despite fierce opposition from the Trades Union Congress and the Public Utilities Workers Union, The government is pressing ahead with plans to involve private actors. After nearly 2 months of consultations, the committee has submitted its report to the Energy Minister, outlining 3 major recommendations, including this controversial restructuring of the ECG.
After 2 months of deliberations, the technical committee tasked with exploring private sector participation in Ghana's power distribution companies has submitted its report to the Energy Minister. The committee examined key challenges facing the Electricity Company of Ghana and proposed measures to address them.
And we see problems with governance, we see problems with management malaise. And then we also see procurement problems, high losses both in terms of commercial and collection.
The committee's report outlined 3 modules for private sector participation, down from an initial 8. One major proposal suggests breaking ECG's operations into separate units and awarding them to private entities.
And there's option B, which we are calling the multiple lease, in which case the distribution across the country will be divided into several parts, and each of them awarded to probably a different private sector participator to operate and to invest in. Then there's a third option, which we call option C, the service franchise, in which case the private sector will operate the network, the low voltage network from the distribution transformer to deliver services to the homes.
However, the proposal has met stiff resistance from groups like the Trades Union Congress and the Public Utilities Workers Union, who strongly oppose any form of privatization. Timothy Nyame is the General Secretary of POO.
I want to state it categorically that, look, there's no private sector participation in the energy sector. That is not supposed to make profit. They don't have any business in the private sector, in the public sector. They should put certain modalities in place and let us move together.
Energy Minister John Jinapo believes this is the only viable path to rescuing the struggling, loss-ridden energy distribution companies.
On a monthly basis, we incur a deficit or a shortfall of more than 1 billion cedis from the distribution sector.
The Energy Minister, John Jinapo, says a position paper will now be presented to Cabinet for further assessment before any of the proposed models are implemented.
The next step from here will be to do a position paper to Cabinet for the entire government to consider and approve the option that we will be pursuing, following which we would establish a project implementation committee. We would also have to get a transaction advisor, make this process as transparent and open as possible.
For Joy News, Michael Ashali.
As the world commemorates World Autism Awareness Day, the founder of Bright Steps International School, Grace Nkrumah, is calling on the government to do more to educate Ghanaians about autism. As part of the celebration, the school organized a float through the streets of Accra to raise awareness and encourage inclusivity for individuals on the autism spectrum. There's more in this report.
As the world observes Autism Awareness Day, the focus is on the urgent need for greater education and support for autistic individuals. This year's theme, Advancing Neurodiversity and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, emphasizes how inclusive policies can drive change and contribute to the SDGs. To raise awareness, Bright Steps International School organized a float through Accra, engaging the public and promoting understanding of autism. The event highlighted the challenges faced by individuals on the spectrum and tested public knowledge.
What I know about autism there is from the infancy, you can see a child who cannot speak. So sometimes we used to say, "Where your bosumba." That's what I know about autism.
So they are like children that normally get scared when they are frightening or something. So normally they behave differently from other people. But I think they are normal with us.
What do you know about autism?
I don't have any idea.
Have you heard about it somewhere before?
Yes.
founder of Bright Steps International School, Grace Nkrumah, stressed the importance of public education and urged government to take active role in awareness campaigns.
This battle or this cross of awareness creation should go beyond private individuals, private schools. The nation should take it on board. We have these children across the nation, and if we can invest in them early in their education, it will save the country a lot of money. So it is not just for individuals to spread the news. We need the entire nation to come on board to create the awareness.
Advocates believe increased education and government support can help foster a more inclusive society. Nicholas Ekoyama's report for Joy News.
Today is World Autism Awareness Day. We are out educating each one and everyone.
Let's all support them in the best way that we can. Now, moving on, the 2024 NPP's vice presidential candidate, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, has called for swift, fair support for victims of the Edum PZ fire in Kumasi. Visiting the affected traders, he urged inclusive relief efforts and donated 50,000 Ghana cedis and 500 bags of cement. Nana Boache Yadom tells us more.
The Edum PZ fire, which broke out on Friday, March 21, 2025, left several businesses in ruins and displaced many traders and their families. The NPP's vice presidential candidate for the 2024 election, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, visited the area to sympathize with the traders. His visit is part of efforts to support the traders affected by the fire. I have been affected by the fire myself, but I can't complain. I pray that God helps us all. I am not an MP anymore. I am an unemployed politician, but I cannot come in vain, so I am giving out 50,000 Ghana cedis and 500 bags of cement. As recovery efforts continue in the Edum PZ area, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh has called for swift government intervention without any form of discrimination. It can't be that government supports a group of people and not others. All those who trade here must hear from the government, and there shouldn't be any form of discrimination. Meanwhile, some of the affected traders have returned to make sales despite evacuation notice to allow for further consultation on rebuilding the market. At this point, we have returned to the land to start business. We are, however, waiting for the Asante for his final determination. For Joy News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
In other stories, the 1993-year group of Nanabe Dubonsu Basic School in the Western region have revisited the alma mater after 32 years to bond, reminisce, and explore ways to support the school. During the visit, the group made donations and identified critical needs requiring further assistance. They also encouraged past students of basic schools across the country to give back and support the next generation. Western Regional Correspondent Inathalia Kwansa has more.
Nanabe Dubonsu Basic School in New Takrade has long been recognized as a beacon of academic excellence. Established in 1950, the school has nurtured countless students who have gone on to achieve remarkable successes both locally and abroad. The 1993-year group returned to their alma mater to give back to the institution that shaped their formative years. Spokesperson of the year group is Priscilla Ishen.
We have visited the school today to bond with the school, to reminisce, and also to network. We did not come empty-handed. We came with a set of jerseys, 3 footballs, a pump, and 3 ceiling fans. So we came to seek to know how we can also contribute to the well-being of the school. Having left here 32 years ago, there has been a massive transformation. This used to be a 3-unit classroom block. Now it is a story building. The year group is going back to sit down and go to the discussion table to know what we can do to support our younger ones. So we are also appealing to all past students, both our mates, our seniors, our juniors, to come back to your roots and support the school so that together we can move Banana Bedu Bonsu forward.
Headmistress of the school is Mercy Apia.
I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful for the nice presentation by the 1993 year group, all students of Nana Bedu Bonsu. In fact, they've really done well and really appreciate that. So on behalf of my staff, I say God richly bless you. God richly bless you for all that you have spent on us. And I know God is going to bless you abundantly. I really appreciate what they presented unto us. It will help because of especially the football and the jersey. You know, some of them are into sports. They are well talented in sports. When it comes to sports, they are good. Because some of them too might be good in academically. So we are happy to have this jersey sports outfit so that it will help them to do training also when you are going for competition. Even appearance also counts.
Reporting for Joy News in Athalia Kwansa, New Takrade.
Let's get into our business update now with Benjamin Akakpo.
Welcome to Business Updates. We start first with our currency market for today. Let's get into our stories now. And the Ghana Revenue Authority has officially announced the abolition of the controversial 1% electronic transfer levy. This follows the president's assent to the e-transfer levy yesterday. Now, according to the GRA, with immediate effect, all financial institutions and payment platforms are instructed to cease applying the levy and swiftly process refunds for any deductions made beyond this date. But the Telecoms Chamber is insisting it needs at least 24 hours to fully comply. Ken Ashigbe is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications.
Sometime that would be required between when the Gazette is being received and notification given so that the charging entities and GRA itself would be able to move all the calibrations they've done from the test environment to the production environment. And normally, for such a system, based on all, maybe within 24 hours, that ought to be done. So I'm pretty sure that once the Gazette is received by GRA, we will then allow the time for the calibration of the system, which I'm pretty sure would be about 24 hours. And so let's say we get this tonight, maybe Thursday midnight into Friday morning, those calibrations will be completed, because it's important that you do this thing so that there are no hitches when you go live.
Well, now, MTN Ghana has stated that it will collaborate with government and the necessary agencies to ensure the participation of Ghana's biggest telecommunications player in the implementation of the 5th generation network, that is 5G. Now, speaking at a fireside chat to mark a year as CEO of MTN Ghana, Stephen Blewett stressed the need for healthy engagements for the growth of the country's telecoms sector.
Yeah, we've had engagements with NGRC, and we've discussed with them. From our perspective, however 5G plays out, MTN will participate in some way. So whether that's NGRC or hybrid or multiple players, whatever, we will, and we're happy to be part of rolling that out. We're happy to be partners. There's a lot of different ways. So we will wait for guidance from our ministry on that, and we will wait to do that. In terms of AR, you obviously know a lot more about AR than me. That's why Bernard was laughing at me when you were talking about AR now. I'll give you my global view of AR, okay? My first comment I'm going to make about AR is I think, unfortunately, it's become almost a bit oversold, in my opinion. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Is a lot of people are jumping onto the AR bandwagon, and how much is actually AR and how much of it's just noise and hype, okay? For me, and for us as MTN, we have a program that is across all of our operating markets and seeing use cases for AR. Okay? And we use different technologies to achieve that. So this is the good thing about being part of a group, is each country has a different focus. So when I met with them, I said I wanted to use AR for customer experience, and we're using it for other things. And these different models, as you say, that can be used for that. But other countries are doing different things, AR for people, etc. The good thing about it is we'll learn from each other.
Well, let's segue into our commodities market now. Well, that's it for business. Handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Or the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. You want to stay with us because the conversation starts now, starting with a news review. Be right back. This is the news review segment on the AM Show, brought to you by Waylead Properties. And before we get into it, are you thinking about a rewarding investment you can engage in? Then Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit right here in Accra. And you want to invest in our Willow Lane, that is a new development where elegance will meet tranquility in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at affordable cost and also with flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Give us a call now. 0240-111-119 or 0504-499-999. You can also visit our website at www.waylead.org, and Ben will tell you more.
Well, every year we do know that thousands of Ghana's brightest minds flock away from the country, seeking better prospects abroad, leaving a gap in our workforce. But we ask, how can Ghana inspire its talent to stay right here in the country and develop it? Well, join David Ofosu-Dorte, Professor Mary Setrana, and Her Excellency Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former president of Mauritius, at the 12th installment of the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Business Roundtable to discuss managing the talent exodus, leveraging private-public partnerships for growth. The date is the 7th of May, 2025. The venue is the Labadi Beach Hotel. The time, 9 a.m. If you'd like to register, text your name and organization to 0530-117-202. You can also shoot an email to info@ieyamson.com. Well, joining us for the news review this morning, we have one of our guests, Afenyo-Markin, and I nearly mentioned his English name, which he doesn't like to be mentioned. Afenyo-Markin is former president of the Ghana Journalists Association. He joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, great Ben.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
The great grace is keeping me.
We thank God for grace. We thank God. I remember your last birthday, and when you mentioned your age, I was like, whoo! Grace indeed has kept you. And as always, lovely outfit.
Thank you. Credit on man, as usual.
Right. What are your thoughts for us this morning? Brief thoughts before we shoot into the paper.
I'd like us to take a synoptic look at development in the U.S., where His Excellency President Trump is tantalizing the prospect of extending his stay in office.
To a third term.
To a third term. And, of course, the opposition is stiff. And Trump can be unpredictable, and he seems to be pushing hard. And he's looking at ways to make this possible. And my main concern is the impact it will have on developing countries, the impact it will have on the addiction to tenure elongation by certain leaders.
Yeah. And I mean, if the U.S. sets that precedent, can you imagine what some leaders in other parts of the world will say, if America is toying with this or doing this, how about those of us in these
exactly. And so America
democracies
is perceived as a pinnacle of democracy, and for America president to be thinking of extend his stay in office, I think Africa will feel the pinch. So it's a wake-up call to democratic forces, apostles and evangelists of democracy, to amplify their voices, to stop Trump in his tracks, and for us to also be aware. This can never happen in Ghana, but it's in Nigeria, Obasanjo tried. He allegedly bribed legislators to pass his third-term bid. Zimbabwe is also facing the same challenges. Mnangagwa is dreaming of extending his rule by 2 more years. After Togo, it's a chronic disease in Togo. Cameroon also had the same problem. And if you look at, if you just suppose this against the democratic decay in Africa, the return of military rule in certain parts of the continent, then these are really ominous signs we need to look at.
The Paul Bias and the rest.
But
I mean, I think eventually, I've read a bit of the literature on this subject. I feel Trump will eventually fail at this attempt to tweak things. I think he will fail. But it also sends a signal to the Americans if they didn't realize it. I keep mentioning that over a month ago now, I met an American who felt, well, we are feeling the effects because some people are losing their jobs on the back of some of the actions, Doji and others. And she said, well, though she didn't vote it, if generally we accepted to vote this way, we should bear the consequences of our actions. But America should realize that their actions in there affect practically the whole world, the free world as it is known. And I feel while Americans are entitled to their opinion, just as we are entitled to ours here, a Trump presidency is an albatross around the neck of the entire world with some of the actions. I mean, when was the last time you heard of a trade standoff between the US and its major allies in Europe? When was the last time you heard of some of the things we are seeing now? Look at how the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky, was treated at the White House with J.D. Vance and everything. Look at this talk about Greenland and Canada and all of that. I mean, in international relations, practically outrageous. But all of them are happening under Trump. If you asked me another 4 years under Trump, after these 4 years which have just started, I don't know, but let's see how
it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's it. Sweetie?
Yes, let's get into the newspapers. I was following the conversation, actually. I thought those were interesting thoughts. On the front page, the biggest story, I think, for most people, e-levy betting emission taxes scrapped. President assents to bills, and there was a signing ceremony at the Jubilee House. MIIF to increase royalties collection. Government moves to track excavator import. And these are stories on the Daily Graphic, on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Address issues affecting teachers by April 30th, NAT tells government. When you need to pay your taxes, levies, and all statutory obligations on ghana.gov, we can help. Right, so there's a story here that I want to start with. President John Dramani Mahama has assented to a set of amended bills of parliament, effectively abolishing the electronic transfer levy, that is the e-levy, the betting tax, the emissions tax, among other related bills. And the affected laws include, well, those that I just listed out. And there was a signing ceremony yesterday at the Jubilee House in Accra, and it marked a significant step in the government's commitment to reduce the financial burden on Ghanaians and stimulate economic growth. There was a question, I think, yesterday in the newsroom as to when exactly we'll start, that will start reflecting, because people are still sending monies and trying to see when the e-levy will completely be taken away. But let me add two more stories before I come to you, gentlemen. Government moves to track excavator imports. So the government has commenced processes to track the importation and use of excavators in the country. And this initiative, which forms part of measures being deployed to fight illegal mining, will involve trained enforcement officers at the port to tag and track all excavators being brought into the country. What's interesting is this isn't the first time we are tracking excavators being imported into the country as a way of fighting Galamsey. I know sometime 2021 or 2, the then Minister John Jinapo said the same thing. I don't know what's new this time, and I don't know if that's the effective way to fight the menace, but I'll come to you in a bit after I've added one last story to it. Black Stars, Super Eagles set for London showdown. Football fans in the UK are in for a thrilling spectacle next month as Ghana, Nigeria, Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago descend on London to battle for the prestigious Unity Trophy in what has been billed as, quote, the best in the West, the Afro Classico contest. So these 3 stories, about on the back page, on the fight against mining in Forest Reserve, we have 76 arrested, 100 excavators seized, and we can link that to what the minister is saying that they're going to do in terms of tracking the excavators. What would you like to start, Mr. Moni? But before we go, let me usher in Nana Yao Sapong into the conversation. He's political assistant to Alan Shermanting from the Movement for Change. How's it going, Nana Yao Sapong?
Very well.
Great. Okay, so we'll come back to you and then you can reflect on these stories. I want to start with Mr. Moni.
Very well.
And the fight against Galamsey has been lingering for years now. Attempts were made in the past to give a semblance of fighting this menace, but we all know how it ended. And this time around, the new minister, Amaku Fubua, seems to be serious. Early this year, but the impression created is that he's determined to make a dent in the fight against Galamsey. And what makes it chronically difficult to fight is that people in government who are linked, politically linked, who are so linked in government, both the outgone and the present government, are neck in deep in Galamsey. So this makes the fight, not an easy one. And the opposition has been, pressing the government to at least go the extra mile to show that for once they are determined to consign Galamsey to the dustbin of history. And it wouldn't be easy. The media will have to scale up its advocacy against Galamsey. It sounds be easy. Yesterday, the foremost voice of the media coalition against Galamsey, Dr. Kenach, was on air, criticizing a judge who, I don't know how he read it, and released excavators to the perpetrators of Galamsey only for him to make a U-turn. But the question of why, where was his knowledge? Was his knowledge of the law in the first place when he ordered that the excavators be returned to the Galamseyers? So it's a fight.
Do you think it's because he wasn't aware or he had forgotten? Or there's something else at play here?
In fact, the circumstances under which he released the Galamsey ought to be examined. Because we don't have any evidence to point to the fact that there was some underhand dealings. But at the same time, this has really dented his reputation as a judge, someone who really knew the law. They are called learned men, and one will question his knowledge of the law when he went to the extent of ordering that excavators be released to the perpetrators. We must keep on the fight. But we need to bring it from the back burner to the front burner. And this is the time for us to fight on all cylinders, put on all cylinders, move to the highest gear to ensure that for once we win this fight against Galamsey, because the consequences are just mind-boggling.
We keep saying that to win the fight, but I wonder, what will winning the fight look like? When there are no mining at all in our forest reserves, or when illegal mining is completely halted or eradicated from this country. Do you think that time will come where we'll actually see that?
It doesn't make sense to put a stop to Galamsey in all forms. Put a stop to mining because of its contribution to our economy. But the economic prospects of mining, as that we cannot, if you look at contribution to GDP, contribution to economic survival and ascendancy, we cannot do away with mining, but not Galamsey. The only way to determine whether we are winning or not winning is to look at the color of our water bodies. That's the only way to look at it. And our forest reserves, how secure are they? Until we all come to the point that our forests are now secure, our forests are now a no-go area for illegal miners, and our water bodies will get to a extent that people can even feed them and drink as we used to do in years past. Then we can all pat ourselves on the back that at long last the battle is ended. And
Ghana, our beloved country,
is free forever from Ghana.
Amen to that. Nanaya, do you want to get a bite before we go to the e-levy and other stories from the Daily Graphic?
Yes. Oh, okay. I thought we would just put it all together. So for the excavators, I mean, from what Fred was talking about, when I heard the ruling of the High Court judge, I was a bit shocked, because one thing I know that goes into rulings is that even when the law doesn't state it, but yet you know the effect and the dire consequences of the actions or the activities or the element that is being used against society, you need to be cautious when you are giving a ruling to that effect. And I laughed, and just as you started laughing, and we don't have evidence to state whether or not there were some underhand dealings. But these Galamseyers have so much of influence in our society because of the kind of money that passes through their hands and the amount of resources that they control. But nevertheless, I think that the minister can do more. And I've been on the minister because he has been given the mandate to deal with the issue of Galamsey. Right. I mean, excavators should have a reason for coming into this country. Okay. Yes,
actually,
our
that's
road,
what they are saying.
our infrastructural agencies, the civil engineering companies and others would need excavators to work with. Some farmers will need excavators to work with. But there are many more of these excavators that come into this country just to destroy our forests and our lands. And so if there is any other means to track the bringing in of these excavators, the reasons, then they should. But what they should do more is to put up probably a monitoring team, okay, at the ministry. Because if you are clearing your excavator from the port now as it stands, you state the reason why you are clearing it. I am told that you even declare the location of that excavator. So periodically, there should be a team that goes around to check whether or not what you had declared or stated in your clearing forms or whatever documents that have been given to the Ministry of Transport. You should be able to tell and monitor where these excavators are located. But I would just want to join that with the issue of the myth, if I may. That's the issue of royalties that are being paid. And when I read the news about the new acting CEO, Justina, talking about a collaboration between the agencies to increase the collection of royalties, I asked myself, why would we have to have a discussion over this? Royalties, first of all, we are saying that they should review the percentage of the royalties. Ghana is paying very little. I mean, companies are paying very little royalties to the country. And yet we would have to go through the stress to collect these royalties. Meanwhile, when these companies mine and they are exporting their products. It goes through our ports, it goes through our airports, and we know you cannot export or take out your produce after mining without the knowledge of our agencies.
Right.
So why should we allow you to take your product away when you have not paid your royalties? You cannot hold our monies and have your products going out of this country. This should not be on the table for discussion. What she should be coming up with is a proposal to deal with the contractual agreements between Ghana and these mining companies, all right, to increase the royalties they pay to us and to increase the percentages that we own in these mining companies, and also to deal with the issue of technology transfer. That is what we should be looking at. But for us to discuss whether or not they have to pay and how we would collect it, it's a no-no. There should be a system. I mean, you can't take the products away after mining. When you
I don't think that's what the story is saying, whether or not we should be discussing royalties.
No,
if anything,
so what the story is talking about is the fact that they want to collaborate.
They are putting measures in place.
How they would collect, increase the collection.
Yes.
Really, increase what collection?
Okay, let's make progress.
No, but my point is that the percentages are known. These companies mine in Ghana. You cannot take these products out of Ghana without us knowing, unless otherwise they smuggle these products away. And so if you are done mining and you have to export, you cannot owe us royalties and take our monies away. That is my point. And I'm saying that.
That's one of the things that hopefully the Gold Board would
so
solve.
What we should rather be discussing is how we would increase the percentage of the royalties and how we would increase our stake in these companies, and how we would deal with the issue of technology transfer, so that at the end of the day, we would have more indigenous Ghanaians having the technology and the know-how to own some of these mining firms. That is my take. I mean, that is what I'm thinking should be on the table for discussion, not how GRE should go and collect the monies. I mean...
Right. You know that the Ghana Bauxite Company is doing something similar. They are sort of building capacity so that they can add value to the alumina and whatever they mine from here, rather than depend heavily on imported alumina for the things.
That should be the discussion.
I think that it's I'm just trying to make a connection that this announcement that they're actually putting measures in place, it's exactly what you're saying. But you have a problem that they're announcing when they're telling us that they are going doing something about it.
No, they are going to increase collection of royalties.
Anyway. Mr. Money, on the e-levy betting tax, that signing ceremony that we saw yesterday, how do you feel about it? Is it, are you heaving a sigh of relief?
Certainly, yes. Yeah. It goes without saying that the repeal of the e-levy law has struck a cause of jubilation and appreciation among low-income earners and small-scale businesses, because they were feeling the pinch of the tax imposed on their businesses. And His Excellency, the President, made it a major plank of his campaign that he was going to repeal this law within the first 120 days of his administration. He's done just that. So kudos to the President for walking the talk. And the politicians have a stigma, all of them, around them, that they say one thing and do another. They promise heaven and deliver hell. They are impure in words. They are righteous in words, but impure in deeds. So these are politicians, and these MPP politicians cannot escape this stigma. So they need to work very hard to at least to assure the populace that there are people who can be trusted, because their trust in politicians, to say the least, is on the wane, and suspicions on the right. So kudos to His Excellency the President. But I will guard against the setting of any form of complacent conceit. It's happened in the last administration. We saw the speed with which His Excellency, the former President Nado, introduced free SHS. And there pockets of opposition even within his cabinet. But he stamped his authority on the cabinet and ensured that free SHS was introduced. It's one of the most progressive social interventions ever in the history of this country. But we also saw the manacled dependence on free SHS. Everything was free SHS to the extent that MPP angled this whole election campaign on free SHS, which proved disastrous at the polls. So, yes, you fulfilled your promise to repeal e-levy within the first 120 days. But you have a long way to go to justify your return to the most consequential office in the land, president of this country. The cost of living is still bitingly bitter for most Ghanaians. The issue of joblessness is we haven't tackled that yet. Many able-bodied Ghanaians are jobless. And we were promised by the government that they will work hard towards that. It's yet to materialize. So e-levy, fine. But there are other campaign promises which are begging to be fulfilled. So until this is done, many people will be hesitant to pass a new comment.
What he said about trust in politicians. I had a conversation with Fred Bradford, former information minister, and he said that the media do not yet understand who they're dealing with in terms of this administration. And so we should hold our horses. We shouldn't start praising them yet. Do you agree that we do not really understand what we are dealing with yet, as at now? I mean, they are just a couple of months in office, but do you get a sense that we are probably in for some surprises with this administration?
The sweetness of the eating is of the pudding is in the eating.
Okay.
So let's wait and match their promises against their delivery. Then we'll be in a position to break them.
Right.
Early days yet.
Okay.
Humble submission.
All right. And that's it for the daily graphic. We can do some other stories now. Mr. Moni. The overseer.
The overseer, of course, the leading story is here. It is finished. E-levy, betting tax, and emissions tax abolished. It comes with a picture of His Excellency President Mahama displaying his signature, which assented to that bill. We also have other stories competing on the front page of the overseer. President Mahama appoints Prince Mahmoud Idrisu as Deputy CEO of GEA, Jospon Group Studies Waste to Energy and Apprenticeship Program in Austria. Ghana IMF begin fourth review mission amid economic reforms, and Energy Minister requests AG's probe into missing ECG containers. ECG stories refuse to leave the media space. Every day, every minute, ECG is in the news. And what do you do to tackle this issue from the root and not the branch? And the root to approach would be to ensure that Ghanaians are not shortchanged, procurement processes follow due process. People will not, no matter how influential they are, will not be allowed to exert unnecessary influence. The procurement officer was quoted as saying that orders from above force him to capitulate. But anyone who will yield to such pressures to do what is wrong is not fit to hold any position. This is not to pass any judgment on what the pipeline to ensure that ECG lives up to its billing as the state organization, which ensure that our lights are on. For now, ECG is bleeding. If ECG bleeds, the whole nation will also bleed. So we are bleeding profusely. And the only way to stanch the blood flow is for the right thing to be done. action to be taken to ensure that every person is retrieved from people who have squandered it without any justification.
The current debate, well, not really a debate, is the privatization, although we know PULC and some other bodies are against it. Looks like the government might actually go ahead with it and privatize some parts of ECG.
In fact, there are so many forms of privatization.
What do you think about that?
ECG is such a strategic asset that total privatization will not be in the interest of this nation. Privatization of such an asset will come with a lot of security implications. You need to weigh against that. Putting this in the hands of ECG, in the hands of a private businessman or woman will come with a lot of costs, a lot of implications, because they are so addicted to profit that they will overlook the social cost of doing their business. So it is not in the interest at all of this nation to totally privatize ECG, but certain aspects of its operations can be privatized, like revenue collection,
right?
Where the companies will be given some target to meet. Failure to do so will ensure that they are booted out and fresh ones are introduced for them to meet those targets. So ECG privatization is good, but we need to weigh it against our circumstances and against the need to ensure that the national interest is not compromised in the rights to privatize ECG.
And as upon quick reflections, and then Ben will come in with this paper.
Yes. So I would have a bite on the
ECG,
and a quick one on the e-levy. With the ECG, I think that we would have to sit down as a nation, have a national dialogue on this matter.
Right.
I know that some work has been done by the ministry quite recently. I think there was a committee that was to look whether or not.
And then by Emisata.
But I mean, what you said is exactly what we had said even prior to the elections, that the ECG has a core mandate. Right? Now, their core mandate has a security implication, the distribution of power. All right. So if we would want to privatize that aspect, that would be dangerous to Ghana as a nation. But the other services that they provide, or the other operations, just as you have stated, their revenue collections and other non-core activities or services, could be looked at whether or not we should privatize. And of course, I agree, if you would have to privatize, especially with the revenue collections, and we should have a system to go about it. The other issues that has to do with their missing containers, I think there's a clear cut. I have taken the opportunity to browse through the report that came up, and I stated on other platforms that if I am the minister today, the procurement director, I would pick him up. You understand? You cannot tell me the story you are telling me, that your hands were tied, and you cannot tell me that you do not have a man who is responsible to ensure whether or not your containers are always available. Then how do you come up with the balance of the demurrage? Because they would use the existence of the containers to be able to calculate your demurrages. So you cannot tell me you have a quotation for the demurrage, the containers are missing. You understand? Then who are you paying the money to? You have a shipping unit.
What are you paying the money for?
You have a shipping unit at the institution. So somebody is responsible. Somebody should be responsible to be able to ensure that indeed these containers are available. You understand? There is a custom officer. If you read their act, all right, I think that the non-cleared goods is there, how the procedures go through, even if they want to auction. So you cannot come and tell me, sit before the committee and give me this stories.
Right.
People are trying to bring in the MDs and the ministers. I said, no, let's deal with the technical people. When we deal with the technical people, anybody who is involved, we would know.
Well,
and then finally, I would just hit on the e-levy that the president, and I love the way the overseer titled it. It is finished. But then I've always said that we should be able to manage our expectations as a country. From where we were, how we are coming out, and where we are going, we should be able to manage our expectations. There is so much demand and our expectations are so high. That is where disappointments will come in. I think that persons who have been given ministerial appointments, have been given agencies and institutions to head, should find a way to help Ghanaians manage our expectations. It is finished indeed. Sweetie, you will not agree with me, but just yesterday I was listening to a radio and it says that if you have married a good woman, you are complete. If you have married a woman,
you are completely finished. Yeah, but you are though. You are completely finished.
So I mean, we should be cautious. Yeah. This is our money. This is revenue. I think that if we have other means of bringing in money to actually fit in, and that is where I was talking about the royalties. So if we are taking away all of these burdens, the tax burdens on Ghanaians, all right, there should be another source to generate, if not equal, but more of these revenues. And one other clear means is our royalties. Let's look at that and do more.
As for the ECG thing, we await because the minister spoke to us and he said that they'll make the findings from the investigation public. So we're all waiting to see exactly what goes into that, and we can also get a bite at it. Benjamin.
Well, let's get into the New Republic newspaper. I'll do a number of stories from here, but the first batch will focus on Galamsey. You say the stories simply can't get out of the media, as Afenyo-Markin puts it. Since we've addressed some of the issues, some of them will be touch and go, but others I will get into. I was at an event over the weekend with Erastus Asaridonko, and it was interesting, some of what was shared there. But if you get into the New Republic newspaper, it says, Erastus, government in action on Galamsey. Now, an alarming turn in Ghana's battle against illegal mining, as there is an alarming turn in Ghana's battle against illegal mining, as investigative journalist Erastus Asaridonko slams the government for laxity and political meddling in the fight against Galamsey. Despite the glaring evidence of illicit activities in the Tano area enclave, state authorities have failed to take firm action following allowing illegal miners free rein. Now, Donko criticized the government for turning a blind eye to the issue, citing entrenched interests and interference, hindering efforts to combat the menace. I'll link that to a story on page 4, and my apologies. Now, the EPA vows crackdown on illegal mining activities, and the Environmental Protection Agency has taken a hard stance against illegal mining, vowing to prosecute all offenders regardless of status or political affiliation. At a time when illegal mining, commonly known as Galamsey, continues to devastate Ghana's environment, the agency has reaffirmed its commitment to enforcing environmental laws without fear or favor. Accordingly, Acting Chief Executive Officer of the EPA, Professor Nanama Kluche, emphasized the agency's dedication to its core mandate, protecting Ghana's environment from degradation. And it goes on and on, but she's spoken a few times now on this matter, and I feel more action ought to be taken, especially in respect of some of the incidents we've seen in Western North, and the regional minister coming in claiming he wasn't aware of what was happening, and then this ruling by a judge as well. In fact, on the ruling, like has been mentioned, Ken Ashibe said that the magistrate's release of impounded excavators was bizarre. But then local government minister wants chiefs empowered to tackle Galamsey. He shared these same thoughts with me yesterday, but what is cited here is on Adum TV's Bigum, where Mr. Ibrahim highlighted the influential role of traditional leaders in their communities, emphasizing their crucial role in the fight against Galamsey. And the final story I'll link up because I just want us to discuss them once and for all. Bakavomao rejects shoot-to-kill anti-Galamsey approach. So, lawyer and political activist Oliver Bakavomao has firmly opposed the idea of a shoot-to-kill policy in the fight against illegal mining, also known as Galamsey. According to him, any attempt at militarizing the crackdown on illegal mining will only escalate the crisis rather than solve it. And then he emphasizes that if such an approach is the intent, he wants no part of it. And he says, quote, eventually, militia groups will form. And let me be clear, I do not and will never support extrajudicial killings as a policy tool. Have we learned nothing from Boku? How has using humans as target practice there solved anything? What do you think of these Galamsey-related stories before we get to other stories in the paper? I'll start with you, Afenyo-Markin.
Political will need to be scaled up. In the past, it has been so conspicuous with its absence. Now we have a fresh start, fresh opportunities, fresh prospects to consign Galamsey to the dustbin of history. It won't be easy. In fact, it will not be a happenstance. We ought to ensure that people who are involved are checked, are dealt with according to law, regardless of their connections to officialdom. So if we are really serious about fighting Galamsey, it should be a no-go area for politicians. And it's interesting to note, His Excellency the President, John Mahama, has said, none of his appointees be permitted to engage in other legal or legal money. This is a profound statement. And he needs to ensure that he walks the talk as far as this policy initiative is concerned. Amakufubwa, yes, he seems to be grabbing all the headlines, but he still has a long way to go. And as Donko and Co, Rastos and Co, are the people who are on the ground. And this is a time for the media and the government to join forces to launch the most ferocious and tenacious campaign against Galamsey, so that for once we win this war. I'm inclined to believe that this war is winnable, but depending on the approach.
Right.
So if the approach is wishy-washy, then it will take us back to where we began.
Quick thoughts on that, Nayo?
Yes. So I would start from the EPA. And I had stated earlier that the EPA would have to tighten up its monitoring and supervision units. If they do not have, they need to set up one of these, because it's one of the key agencies, all right, that monitors the activities on our forests and other lands.
The EPA just became an authority, and you know what that means, moving from an agency to an authority and scaling up, even in terms of logistics, human resource, yes. Other policy.
They have before they became authority, they were an agency, I agree, but the work has still not changed. They are those in charge of protecting our environment.
What I'm trying to say is the work has increased. If you look at what now they would be expected to do, you can't expect that in just a few months they would.
No, I'm not saying that in just
operationally.
But what I'm saying is that if they do not have such a unit, they would have to create one, and they would have to employ people who would be in charge of it. Because when you have given people licenses to operate on our environment, to work on our environment, the protective agency or the agency that is in charge of protecting our environment should be able to monitor the activities of these entities that have been given their licenses to legally operate. And so that is one thing they need to do. One thing I also expect the prof to do is to actually sit with the Chief Justice to see if there could be a dedicated court that would handle people who are caught up.
I think they floated the idea of creating such.
Yes, there should be a specialized court to that effect that would speed up the legal actions that will be taken against these persons. Yes. Now the other issue has to do with Vomawo. Ben, the hypocrisy in this country is too much. And I think certain individuals and certain civil society organizations are becoming too much hypocritical with their stance. Okay. These Galamseyers, they have prevented, or they have been able to stop our state security from going into these forest reserves. these Galamseyers, we are told, hold sophisticated weapons than some of our state security agents. They have taken over our forest reserves. And you tell me that we should not declare those areas a security zone and that we should not deal with them the way they want to deal with society.
He's talking about shooting to kill and what the
that is what I'm coming.
As a human rights lawyer, maybe
you've not got there yet. You're sounding like, so just go to the meat of the matter. He's saying that if you go down this road, you could have consequences where it could spiral.
And the example he gave,
more armaments in the system
has nothing to do with Galamsey. Bringing Boku in, Boku as an example. Somebody, what has issues of Boku got to do with fighting Galamsey? People are talking about chieftaincy and possession of land. Ownership of land.
This is the point he makes. According to him, if communities affected by mining feel targeted, they may resort to arming themselves, escalating tensions, and potentially turning the situation into a conflict.
Are we targeting Galamseyers or we are
into a conflict resembling those seen in other troubled regions? And he suspects that that is where it could start.
Let's be realistic.
Nana, hold it. Wait. To a certain extent, I agree that we must be way more ferocious in dealing with Galamsey. But at the same time, you cannot run away from the fact that, look, go to Konongo Dumase. There are places where, in those areas, the people themselves, sometimes it's also out of a lack of, should I say, it is also born out of some level of ignorance. Because like I mentioned yesterday, a child died. I think, I don't know whether it's 11 or 14-year-old JHS boy, some months back. There are houses, many houses, where pits are dug in the house, going down, connecting to tunnels. Don't think that in those communities, it's not just the people who go mining, who are into it. The township is into it. So when he makes this point, you must also understand from a certain standpoint of communities themselves being involved, where it is some sort of mainstay. The men who are able to go and work. The women are in the know, children know. And it is not that they are not aware of the consequences. This is the situation. Such communities, if they start arming themselves or thinking we are being persecuted,
you should
that's what he's pointing.
From where I am coming from.
I'm not saying I don't understand. I'm saying that look at the bigger picture, not just where you stand.
We should start from some point. Declare our forest reserves a no-go area. Security zone. You go there, we shoot you. Declare our border.
I mean, the first part has been done. The second part about we shoot you hasn't.
These are human rights matters, man.
These are human rights matters. But are the Galamseyers considering our rights as human beings too? Are they considering the rights of our mothers and our fathers drinking those waters? Are they considering the lives of those animals in the forest? So we have no rights? Some money. So I go to the hospital.
There's a reason we don't kill criminals and we put them in jail, right?
We don't have to accommodate these.
There's a reason why we don't necessarily shoot to kill out everybody that we suspect is committing a crime.
Water bodies are protected. And so if we have people who deliberately, intentionally embark on activities to destroy our water bodies, and you want us to pamper them. Have you read a report from Ghana Water?
Certainly pampering them is answered.
Have you read a report from Ghana Water Company Limited? The amount of money that they spend in treating these waters nowadays. Have you been to Kolebu to look at the children that are being birthed?
Not only Kolebu.
I mean, let's be
real. It's a national crisis. No.
The Galamseyers should know that the country is angry enough to deal with them ruthlessly.
All right, I think your point on that has been made, and the insistence is that the current administration will also stick to its promises when it comes to
fighting Ghana.
LI 2462, the EIs, and others to ensure that it's a very delicate matter, but we can't afford to lose this fight.
Not at all.
From here as media people, from you as advocates, from out there as everybody, every Ghanaian,
leading a street fight,
as policymakers, as politicians, we can't afford to lose this fight. The fight is slipping away. I mean, the victory is slipping away. We are losing the fight, and we must really do more. Yeah. I would dare say that since this administration took over, I've seen some signs that point to some positivity. But is it enough? I don't think so. I don't think so. More must be done, because where we are, I mean, we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. But speaking of another illegality, just walking through it, which has come into the fray because of the Chinese who recently were, we have porous land borders, and when it comes to our maritime borders too, or our maritime, boundaries, our waters, we are unable to protect them or police them like other countries would. And sometimes you would have people coming from other countries, Chinese with trawlers, among others, also fishing in our territorial waters and making away. Do you get it? Because we're not doing the right thing. So there's a story here, tackling illegal fishing. Fisheries Ministry suspends licenses of 4 industrial trawlers. But let me quickly get into other stories, and then it will be a wrap for this paper. NPP MP dodges drug trafficking allegation. It says Reverend John Ntimfodjo, NPP Member of Parliament for Asin South, appeared to sprint away from his previous explosive allegations of suspicious activities at the Kotoka International Airport. The MP had boldly declared that 2 aircrafts made mysterious pit stops in Ghana under shady circumstances. We can confirm. We also tracked the trajectory of the flights and confirmed that they had been in the country. But what were they here today to do? One plane, AirMed flight K823 AM, allegedly landed in the country on March 20, but stayed for 5 days without any record of carrying a patient. The other aircraft, a private jet named Antonov 12B, touched down on March 12 and jetted off the same day, and it goes on and on. Then Reverend Fodjo seemingly vying, I don't think that is a fair comment. They equate him to Okudzeto Ablakwa. I don't want to go in there. President John Dramani Mahama, responding sharply to the MP's assertions, directed security agencies to launch a comprehensive probe. Now, doubts are surfacing about the credibility of Reverend Fodjo's initial claims, but I think the paper should allow Reverend Ntimfodjo to, interact with these agencies. He's a Reverend minister, and I'm hoping that he knew what he was talking about and that he was being honest. And so the state agencies should engage him to get to the bottom of the... Indeed. Yeah. And in fact, the next story feeds into that. Mahama parries MPP's cocaine plan agenda. And President Mahama has swiftly addressed allegations surrounding 2 aircraft that purportedly landed at the KIA. So it talks about his post as well on social media, pointing to his attention being drawn. I think it should be collaborative. He who alleges must prove, but we must also ensure that we are protecting our state from any intrusions when it comes to any drug barons or whatever money laundering could be happening. What I am positive about is the fact that over the past weeks, we've had some major drug busts, which means something is working. Yes. But if there were slippages in this incident, if proven true, then what happened there? Nanaya, I'll start with you. Brief thoughts. We have to go in a few.
Yes, I think that the Narcotics Control Commission, is a commission, the recent busting of some of these drugs, they've actually have commended them. They've done a very good job. I believe that they need to be more resourced and to be given a lot more of trainings if the need be to be able to help, because looking at where Ghana is located currently, and I would not want to see that all of these drugs are coming in to stay in this country, but it becomes more of
a conduit,
to other places, which is for us. So we should be able to resource them better and to ensure that they are giving the best of the
Mr. Mott.
Some of these national issues, we should know how to handle them. I wasn't happy when Reverend Intimfojo brought this out. I think that he should have approached the national security or the agencies that were responsible for it. Now, bringing it out has brought the whole discussion into the public domain. If the people would have to tamper with certain evidences, I mean, by now it is gone.
All right.
I readily spray perfume of commendation on our security agencies for busting this drug trafficking. It shows that they are alert, on top of the game. But we need to get to the root of this matter. Early this year, investigations, according to my sources, are ongoing. But we need to work. We need to send the right signals to the perpetrators, to all the dealers, that Ghana is a no-go area as far as drug trafficking is concerned. Again, like Galamsey, it's not an easy fight. And the need for us to inject the highest dose of tenacity, ferocity, and intensity into this fight to ensure that our people are secure. And what makes it worse is that many young people are consuming drugs at an alarming rate. And this has a tendency of sentencing the younger generation
next
to
5-10 years.
Yes, so it's a very, very serious matter. So we need to look at it from this angle.
Right.
That's the future of the present and future generations are in limbo. In fact, but the future is almost gone. If they are allowed to consume without any restrictions drugs which will destroy their lives. So we need to, as media community, we need to train our ears, sharpen our eyes, and take a keener interest in what will happen at today's meeting, and do the follow-up in the name of comprehensive journalism. We need to ask all the questions, we need to do all the follow-ups, and ensure that we also be on the neck of all those who are supposed to act to safeguard the interest of this.
We appear to be destroying the future in the present. I'll do this in some 20 seconds, then, gentlemen, 40 seconds for you, and I think we can go. Public updates on anti-corruption fight by AG Apt. That's according to Dr. Osai Kwapong, who says there's nothing wrong with these public comments by the AG once he's not prejudicing the matter in any way. Ahmed Suale's killing, prosecution amends charges against Daniel Owusu Kranting, and so they have been amended to include abetment to commit murder, as well as the charge to commit a crime. That is to include murder, the murder charge that was initially brought in. But I just wanted to leave you with these thoughts. Another medical trip, same old debate, Ghana's healthcare at a crossroads. It has to do with the vice president. According to Dr. Kwame Asiedu Sapong, a public health and democracy and development fellow at the CDD Ghana, we should look at our setup when it comes to healthcare. He says it's becoming pretty problematic. What would be your take on it? The vice president recently had to seek healthcare, initially at the UGMC, and then it was proffered that she be flown out. What do you make of it? Brief comments and we can go. Nanaya.
Yes, before I comment on it, I wish her well. I think that she's the first ever female vice president we have had. Coming from a technical point of view, where she's coming from, not a politician, and having to be in this position. And I think that we just have to wish her well, even if you don't like her. She's the second lady of the land. I don't want to say the second gentleman of the land, but that is what it is. And I think that our health setup would have to be reviewed. We have to have a relook at it. Initially, when I heard the story and I heard she had been taken to UGMC and had to further be flown to the US, then I asked myself, if UGMC cannot take care of you now, which is actually, I think UGMC and Kolebu, and then probably International Maritime. If they can't take care of you and you are taking you out, that means there is something that we have to still do. And so whatever it is that our health people, our health management or health infrastructures supervisors would have to look at for us to improve, then we would have to do it so that at least some of these individuals, high-profile individuals, can be taken care of in Ghana. That is what will boost the citizens' confidence in our health sector.
Afenyo-Markin.
By means of faith, let me say that divine healing is more potent than the orthodox one. And our prayers are with Excellency the Vice President. I bet the doctors will medicate, but God will heal her. And the question, lingering issues about the tendency to fly politicians outside to seek medical help, we need to take a hard look at this issue.
Right.
Because all those who are raising the questions are right in raising those questions. No one is more Ghanaian than the other, regardless of your status, regardless of your wherever you are coming from, your political connections or social ranking. So this is legitimate for people to ask questions. Right. So the only way to stop these questions from being asked is to ensure that we have the facilities to treat our own people at all times in this country.
Sweetie Abachi, not all of us can be flown out of the country when something is happening to us. Interesting times.
Thank you all so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We have to wrap up now. Those who join us for the conversation, Nanaya Sapom, Movement for Change, and Afenyo-Markin, former GJA president. Please stay. Haruna Mubarak, rather, will serve you AM Sports. We'll be right back.
All right, so we delve into the salient issues when it comes to illegal mining. Everything from that police officer who unfortunately lost his life, slipped and drowned in the fight against illegal mining. He was just out there performing his duties, to all the surrounding issues, including the court ruling in Enchi. But joining us for a conversation, we have Awula Sewa. She's with Eco-Conscious Citizens. We also have Erastus Asaridonko, who will be joining us in a bit. He's a Joy News editor. And on phone, we have Nanaya Ojima, a multimedia journalist. And we'll also have joining the conversation Michael Kwejo Pepra, president for the National Concerned Small Scale Association. And then Daryl Bosu, he's a deputy national director of operations at Arusha, Ghana. But for now, let's bring in Nanaya Ojima, who will give us the scoop, the latest on some of these developments. Nanaya, good morning. What can you tell us about that latest incident in Mpasetia? Nanaya, for some reason, okay, now we can hear you.
Have abandoned the search for these people they believe are trapped in the mining pit. According to the residents, from the search they did yesterday, they had demarcated some area within the area of the pit that actually came in. The mission was to dig out the sand in that area, in that pit, to some feet. And if they get there and they are unable to find anybody, it means that it could be that there is nobody trapped in there. So yesterday, they set a target for themselves. They went through the whole process. And when they got to the point and realized there were nobodies within the pit that they have dug, they had to abandon the mission. So presently, what I can say is that the Mpasetia community have abandoned the mission to find people they suspect to have been trapped in there. Secondly, within the community, no family or relative or anybody is announcing that a relative has gone missing from this issue. So if there's nobody reporting that a relative has gone or has gone missing, it means that there's likelihood that this pit that has caved in has no one in it. So based on these two premises, that is how they arrived at the point that there's likelihood that there's nobody trapped in there, so they had to abandon the mission. So as it stands now, the mission has been abandoned. Now the authorities in Mpasetia are looking at how they can get the youth or the young people to stay away from this mining pit, because as I reported yesterday, it's the second time in 2 months that same pit has caved in or has collapsed. So it means that this pit is dangerous, and if the youth should go in again, there's likelihood that it will once again collapse and claim more lives. So they are now trying to look at a way that they can prevent these young people from going in there. According to the traditional authorities, this is an old pit, and the youth they were using it some time ago. Now, the previous government introduced community mining in the area at a different location. So a lot of the youth withdrew from this mining pit to the community mining area. Now they work there for some time. With the current administration, there was a ban placed on community mining. So they had to halt the activities of the youth in the community mining area that was occupying a lot of them. Now they are all back home. Some of them, even though they've been warned against going to this old mine to mine illegally, some of them on the blind side of the authorities have been going there for their daily bread. And it was through such visits to the area that caused the collapse of this mine and killed some people. According to the assembly member, he tried to reach out to the assembly for some excavators to help them close some of these opened pits, but unfortunately, he hasn't been successful. He's hoping that the new administration that will be appointed soon will see this as an emergency and deploy some resources to help them cover some of these pits and also keep the youth away from the old pits, which have now become a death trap.
Nanaya, some members of the community earlier shared that this concession belonged to a certain individual who had allowed some youth in the community to engage in mining there. Have we been able to identify this individual?
Exactly. So yesterday, from my conversations and my investigation in the community, they've been able to identify this individual, and the police were there for that individual, and they were all present on the grounds yesterday. The order that the police had given was that the individual should help with resources for the community to try to take out the people they suspected to have been trapped in there. After that, if they are able to retrieve any more bodies, they can have full skill investigation into these issues, and prosecution will take place if need be. So from leaving that area yesterday, the information was that police had that individual, but they were all liaising with the community or the townsfolk to ensure that people who they suspected to have been trapped in there are removed before the other processes could be continued.
Nana, yesterday when we spoke, you mentioned that you hadn't heard from NADMO yet. Now that you're reporting that the search has been abandoned, did they come there at all? Do we know if they lended some help to the people there?
Exactly. So yesterday, the police and the NADMO were all on the ground. They came to offer some support to the people. But in the course of the digging or the work that were being done at the site, the NADMO and the police were not involved. They were offering protection and also guidance to the young people in the community who are taking lead in the search for these people. So NADMO were on the ground. They were there taking their notes, and I know that they will write a report on that. The police were also on the ground, but actively the work that was done at the location or the site, it was being done by the youth in the area.
So when you say the search has been abandoned, does it mean nobody is at the site as we speak? There's no activity ongoing and it's completely been abandoned. Is that what you mean when you say the search has been abandoned?
Exactly. That is what I was informed by the people in the community led by the assemblyman, because according to them, they had a target. They believe that if they should dig to a certain pit, they should be able to find these people. And as I said, they were using simple tools, the pickers and the shovels, and that have been the tools that they've been using today. So they dug to a certain point, and after a while, they realized that it's becoming a fruitless effort. Also, no community member had reported of a missing relative. So they are taking it as that there are no people, there are no persons trapped in there. It's very difficult for them to identify people who went to the pits on that day, because these people, they don't go as a group. So any individual can carry himself and his tools to this area and try, go into any of the pits that have already been dug there for their daily bread. So it's very difficult to identify people who come into these pits on daily basis.
Thank you so much, Nana Aljima. Let's speak to Erastus Asare Donko now, Joy News editor. Erastus, thank you for joining the conversation. And of course, please, you can reflect on the abandoned search at Impasetia as we speak. But I do want to take your thoughts on the drowning of Constable Kwabena Dogbe with the Central North Regional Police Command. And this incident happened as part of their efforts to tackle illegal mining in the region. How did this news come to you?
Well, first, if I touch on the Impasetia incident, it is, to say the least, that in this day and age, and with all that has gone on in our country, we are still digging for gold like scavengers. And we have leaders who are looking on for citizens to go that tangent and to lose life needlessly like we are doing. When we can do it sustainably and we can rally the citizenry around doing sustainable mining. And I think that is high time that the president sets an action in motion that will send the right signal to everybody across the country that this is not the way to go.
Right.
Concerning the policeman who drowned, I would say that is rather unfortunate. And that is what we keep saying, that the water guard or something that the minister launched, if there are divers who are experts in diving, this is why we need them. They should be embedded on teams like these, so that before you go on an expedition like that to find people who are really well versed in swimming, you should at least have somebody who knows how to swim on that team. If they had a diver or a member of the water guard embedded on that team, he wouldn't have lost his life. Clearly, the team members did not know how to swim. And so when he fell into the water, they themselves were helpless. And the Galamseyers who know how to swim were afraid to go to his rescue. And so where are the water guards? What are we using them for? Where are they? So these are questions that it tells you that we should streamline the fight against illegal mining. The firefighting approach as we are using it right now, sending men here and there, yes, it's achieving something, but it's not the right way to go. Let's set up teams at the local level. Let's embed divers and other people with expertise onto these teams. Let's use them to work. And I think that will get us more concrete results.
Right. And Erastus, Ben will come to you in a bit, but it's just interesting to know that someone who is a police officer is unable to swim. That's the impression that I'm getting from the story, that the person just fell in the water and drowned without being able to get himself out of the water. Benjamin.
Well, on the back of these developments, I'm sure it would also create some actions, or bring to bear some actions, like you're saying, Erastus, that would streamline further attempts at dealing with illegal mining. But what lessons do you feel we can learn from this incident, apart from the fact that we have to have some of these water guards or river guards joining the teams? What lessons can we learn from this specific incident from where you sit?
Well, so countless times we have said that the police should join the fight. Currently, I'm happy that we have, some of the stations joining the fight. So there's been quite a number of arrests done by police at the local level. That's encouraging. and we encourage that. But I wouldn't encourage that we have police teams that are not well versed with what they are going to do, go on such a chase. If we have to go on such a chase, we should be prepared. We should know our terrain. We should do the proper recce, and we should know who we are going to arrest. If it's a water problem where these Shamfan operators know how to swim very well, they know how to dive. And so if you're going to arrest such people, you should be prepared. The team should comprise policemen who know how to swim, not just anybody. And so I think the lesson going forward is that we don't just send anybody out after these people. If we're going on water bodies, we should at least have somebody who knows how to swim on the team, so that in case of an emergency like this, that person will come in very handy. And I think that is what we should be doing.
Well, some lessons learned from that. Let's bring in our other guests on the same bit. Hold for us, Erastus. Let's also bring in Awula Sewa, who joins the conversation as well. Awula, what do you make of these developments in respect of the fight against Galamsey? I don't want to broaden it too much because we are gradually going to get into the other areas. But what do you make, having listened to Naya Ojima and Erastus Asari-Donkor, on these developments?
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody, the listeners, and a special good morning to my brother Erastus. But what I would say is that we're not well prepared. It's quite clear that we are firefighting. There's a fire today, we rush there, put it out, but we're not well prepared. I think even a 5-year-old would know that if you're going to go into the water bodies, the Chanfans, most of the time they collapse them. And as you said, they can swim. So I know that in Asemkrom, for instance, they had to employ fishermen who could swim. So if we are sending people on these missions, we don't even know that if it's a water body, we need people who can swim, then it just strengthens the point being made that there's no seriousness to the fight against the illegal mining, but it's not well thought out.
Is that your thinking as well, Mr. Pepra? Do we have Michael Kojo Pepra with us?
He needs to unmute.
First of all, if indeed we want to achieve greater height in the fight against Galamsey, as Awula said, we need to be prepared in the sense that you cannot just send anybody to the various water bodies to go and chase these criminals. At least we should have people from the Navy or from the Water Guard to augment these operations being done by the police. So I side with them, and going forward, I don't think we need to repeat these mistakes again.
What I wonder I wonder what this says about the kind of training we give to police officers. It's just a bit surprising for me. I still can't wrap my head around it, that a police officer, having undergone so many types of training, appears to be unable to swim. Anyway, but let's move on. There are other issues on this Galamsey fight. Let's talk about the, the reverse ruling from that court in Enchi, where we know that the courts ruled that 2 excavators were returned to alleged illegal miners, although we have photos to show that they were actually involved in that mining. And he says that, in fact, he cited some past cases to show that he can actually, in the interest of preserving the judiciary, he can actually overturn his own ruling. How did that particular story come to you? First, when you heard that a judge had ruled that 2 excavators be returned to illegal miners, and then the reversing of that ruling. Awula Sewa.
Well, what I would say is that, I was completely astonished that anybody living in Ghana and knowing the devastation that excavators are doing to our forest reserves would return would make a ruling returning the excavators to the environmental terrorists. That was completely out of order. But I'd like to salute all the activists. I'd like to salute all the activists who, when they got the information from Erastus's Facebook, sent messages, posted. They did so much. This is a victory for activism, that the court realized that this was something they couldn't live down, and therefore their decision was reversed. And that's a good thing. That tells all of us that we must be active citizens and not spectators. this is a victory for activism. And this tells us that this fight, there are too many bodies who are complicit. If we have the courts seemingly siding with the environmental terrorists, and it makes our job much, much, much more difficult. We need the courts to be committed to ensuring that justice is served. And how is justice served? When you have excavators in a forest reserve, and then you make a ruling that it should be returned to the environmental terrorists. I think this matter should be reported to the Chief Justice so that we find out what informed the judge's decision in the first decision where the excavators and other mining equipment were returned, and also bail was granted. We know of many cases where activists who have actually effected citizens' arrest of illegal miners have taken them to the police station. The activists rather have been arrested and in certain cases refused both police and court bail. So it's interesting that the illegal miners were granted court bail.
Then.
Well, there are other issues, Mr. Papa. For example, I see a comment coming through talking about how, some of our guests, panelists come and speak to the issues on radio and TV, but that on the ground, it may appear that you may be out of touch with the realities. But for you, as president of the National Concerned Small Scale Mining Group, what is your reaction to these developments? Now we've lost a police officer, sadly, and while there are other attempts to deal with the menace, it appears, like some would say, it is a scattered effort. What do you make of it?
As a matter of fact, we need to understand that Galamsey is a problem, and it didn't start now. We are fighting a century problem, and Galamsey evolves as the time goes by. So in order to understand and then create a solution for the problem, we need to be dynamic. And in so doing, you need to come to understand the reason why people engage in such illegal activities. That is when we can easily find a pragmatic solution to the problem. But in so doing, we don't really understand the reason why all these things are going on. So, intend to manage the problem, we try to fight it.
You say we don't understand why these things are going on. Help us understand better. Why do you think these things are happening?
So people are engaging in Galamsey. It started in the 18th centuries. At the end of the day, what can we do to solve or curb this problem that we've been faced as a country? People are sleeping on gold. People are trying to, as well, mine with impunity. We need to as well come to realize this is a socio-economic problem. And in the whole world, these are problems that evolve as you try to fight. But at the moment we need to understand, we need to manage this problem so that people who are mining with impunity can be streamlined and then mine responsibly. That is one thing we need as a country to realize, that the moment you try to fight something, that thing might as well try to fight back. But the moment you try to manage the problem to favor you, that is when we can easily make headway in trying to solve this problem. What can we do as a country? I remember when Nana Jima was speaking, your reporter in Ashanti region, he said that place that these guys lost their lives was a community mining area. And as a matter of fact, what can we do to make sure that such things doesn't happen again? We were calling on previous government, to at least bring about solutions that can easily help in solving the problem. But unfortunately, whatever they brought on board never came to solve even one of the problems we've been faced with. When we told them, look, we should use the bottom-up approach in so trying to solve the problem, engaging the communities, sensitizing them, and as well engaging with these illegal miners. They said no, they were going to use the brute force, and the brute force came to prove that, that is not the solution of the day. Even when the PNDC government was in power, they used the brute force, and they even people were imprisoned, just by even, holding of gold or engaging in such activities. And we lost the fight. When President Kufuor came into power, we used the brute force, we lost. And as a matter of fact, when His Excellency Jonah Atamos as well started with this Galamsey fight, we used the military, we lost. When Nanado came into power, he brought about Operation Vanguard. He even swore to fight this problem by all means. What happened? We brought about the Vanguard, we brought about the Hot 1, Hot 2, we brought about the Galam Stop application, we brought drones. All these things came to prove that, that was not the solution to the problem.
Mr. Pepra, quick question. Did we lose because we applied some measure of force? I don't know about brute force. I don't think we've really got there yet. But did we lose because we applied some measure of force, or did we lose because we were not tenacious enough in the fight? Because there are other jurisdictions, even here in West Africa, that have also applied a higher level of force with much greater success.
Maybe you have to tell me which country did that in day one. I have gone to Burkina, Have
you been to Cote d'Ivoire?
I've been to Cote d'Ivoire.
Their situation is much better than ours, isn't it?
Yes, because they are managing the problem. They are not fighting the problem.
How are they managing it better?
Yes, so let's say acquisition of license is a problem. Look, people are mining with impunity. They are doing whatever they want. Have you asked yourself, what are the regulatory bodies doing? Are they equipped or are they under-equipped? So when we are able to understand where we fall short, that is where we can, put enough energy to make sure that all these people comes to play than always trying to sit on the fence. When these things come to the public domain, they will be acting as if, there's something we don't know. And as a matter of fact, we'll be chasing people here and there. We should sit down and have a pragmatic solution so that at least we know from the short term, medium term, and long term, these are what the government wants to do. And as a matter of fact, we can easily achieve something greater. Look, people cannot sleep on board. We need to understand. Without being employed and expect them to starve and die. That is the problem of Galamsey of the day. Because a lot of these youth, when they wake up, they have nothing to do. So if he's not gainfully employed and he sees he can use pickers to get 50 cedi, 100 cedis a day, they will do it. Even if he kills them, they will do it. That is why the Galamsey issue has been evolving. When you bring the military now, they come in the afternoon, they will mine in the evening because they need to survive. So when we understand all these things, then we are bringing solutions. Look, we try to look at
May I interject?
Please hold, Awula. Please hold. Mr. Pepra, go ahead.
So when we understand this, at the end of the day, that is when you are bringing a solution, you know what you are going to help in solving the problem that we've been faced as a country. But in this country, we don't really want to delve deep into the problem. We just only sit down when there's an issue, panic reaction, then we try to resolve this issue. Like now, the policeman who just lost his life. I would not blame anybody, but I will blame the people who sent him. Why is it that, we cannot have a plan, right, in so managing the problem? We, as a country, we need to understand, we cannot fight this problem. We can only achieve something greater if we try to manage the problem. That is our deficiency as a country.
Hold for me there. This conversation about the economic, situation, it's an existential threat. And whether we want to say it's a job-related problem or a greed problem, that's another discussion. I'll bring in Daryl Bosu in a bit, but I noticed you wanted to contribute. Awula Sewa, brief contribution, and then I'll go to Daryl. Awula? Awula Sewa, if you can hear me, please unmute and let us know what's on your mind.
While we try to fix, I think there might be a challenge there because we still can't hear. But what I'm picking from you, Mr. Pepra, is that the country is not really, we haven't yet come to terms, full grasp of what we're dealing with in terms of the Galamsey fight. Yet, every now and then we hear stories of some arrests, some excavating. In fact, today on the back page of the Daily Graphic, It said 76 arrested, 100 excavators seized. Does that mean we are still just pussyfooting around the issue? I mean, that's the sense I get from what you're saying, that we don't really understand what we're dealing with.
Because if you go and be seizing excavators, right, these machines were inert. As a matter of fact, these excavators they have dug holes, pits, and as a matter of fact, if indeed we understand the problem, we will not pick these machines from where they were. We need to understand, as a country, we should break something apart that is called polluter base. You just don't go and pick machines and leave the distractions just like that.
Right.
You pick the machines, you don't use it, you keep it, whilst the damage is already there.
Right.
Are we going to wait and go to IMF or what's the name, World Bank to get loans so that people who have dug these pits will be left off the hook? No. We need to bring about a comprehensive ways in trying to manage the problem. But we only want to fight it, which we cannot. Because look, something that draws on survival is a complex thing. At the end of the day, everybody needs to survive. So even if you arrest the person, the next minute, another person will as well engage in it. What is government doing to alleviate this kind of unemployment or poverty level we have as a country? Look, we can as well turn this good issue around. Why can't we bring about cooperative mining scheme? And in so doing, using the cooperative approach, people who don't have licenses or like these people who are, trying to survive, we will put them together, we will regulate their activities so that they can mine responsibly. Then they can as well get their daily bread. These are things we need to be thinking as a country.
Okay.
Why can't we as well understand that Ghana is, let's say, is the leading producer of gold in Africa, right? We have been faced with a challenge. Ghana as well need the gold. We cannot be sleeping on gold till the kingdom come.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we need to mine this gold that we have as a country. But in so doing, we need to mine responsibly. When we channel our energy to the responsible way of mining, that is where we can as well bring about solutions that can help us as a country.
Thank you. We haven't heard from Daryl Bosu yet. He's Deputy National Director of Operations at Arocha, Ghana. Daryl, thanks for joining the conversation. So we are discussing lives lost, 3 illegal miners trapped under that pit in, what's it called? In Pasetia, and the life of Constable Kwabena Dogbe, who's also lost his life in the efforts to fight illegal mining, and that U-turn from that magistrate, I think Lawrence Bueno, who now is saying that we can seize those excavators and do with it what the laws require that we do. How would you characterize all these issues coming up right now in the fight against Galamsey, and what does it say in terms of where we are in that fight?
Yes, good morning to you, and good morning to, I'll say, distinguished panelists on this call. I must say that it's very unfortunate, the developments we've been hearing about some people losing their lives and the police officer who went on his duty also losing his life. But I must also indicate, and I must in some points agree with Mr. Pepra, where he talks about the fact that we have a systematic problem. This is not the first time we've heard of people losing their lives. I mean, I can recall we started keeping records of all the media reportage of people losing their lives because of Galamsey, kids dying in the pits, miners, police, military, everybody, people dying. And we have not less than 2,000 of such records that we have really taken note of. So it's been happening for a long time. But I think, as has been said, how are we as a country taking all of these developments into consideration and really coming out with a plan? And if you also now kind of try to connect with the decision by the court in Enchi, it also tells you that there is a disconnect between the problem that we are facing today and how our justice system is also aligned to helping us deal with this canker that we are dealing with. And for me, it's really highlight the fact that we have not put in place sufficient measures to really address the Galamsey problem that we are faced with. Now, let's take a look at how somewhere 2021, we practically went around the whole country organized dialogues, 10 different dialogues. The issues were put on the table as to really what was responsible for Galamsey. We all identified the fact that, yes, there's an issue of livelihood. There's also an issue of licensing regime that is not being done well. There's also an issue of we not ensuring sufficient due diligence when it comes to even giving out this mining concession. And then there's also an issue of the politically exposed people who sit at the top and try to interfere and control the work of people who are actually supposed to be regulating the mining industry. All of these were identified, but we took those documents, read out all of these issues in a communique, and we never went to the ground to really work with the recommendations and solutions that came forth. Now we've come full circle. We are another 5 years down the line. The issues are confronting us still in the face, and we find ourselves in a situation that if you don't take steps to deal with this problem now, I'm really afraid what's going to happen to Ghana in some 10 years to come when all our water bodies are destroyed or contaminated with heavy metals. Our lands are no longer wholesome enough to produce food for us to eat. And even when you go to the hospital, you are dying slowly because of heavy metal contamination. There is a problem we need to deal with, but somehow we are all pretending like ostriches. We putting our head in the sand and refusing to deal with the issue head on. But I also need to say, there is a thin line between fighting and management. And for a long time, governments and many people have been trying to, look at both strategies. But I must say that anytime we put up the argument of livelihood as a driver of the menace we face, then I guess we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We need to clearly distinguish between what is criminality and what is also the right thing to do. And so far, we all can say that for as long as we know that people are mining where they shouldn't be mining, whether it's difficult to get a license or not, whether there's gold in this country and we must utilize it, the fact that people are not using the right way to assess that gold, then we need to deal with the criminality aspect of it. And I think that the main problem, the whole problem of Galamsey, as has been indicated that it has evolved, got to this situation because we use the narrative of livelihood to get people in the bush, in the pits, and all of that. And I think we can't sustain any effort to manage or find solutions to the problem by continuously bringing up the card of livelihood or the fact that people must survive. This has nothing to do with survival. All of us know that we've gone beyond the point where we say people are doing Galamsey because of survival. It's much more of people living large. And I've seen countless occasions where all the people, the kingpins in Galamsey who are in the field doing all of these things, they are rather using it to live large, get cars. The person who's really in the pits and need money to feed, when they make 1,000 or 2,000, they leave the pits until that money is spent. But there's a difference between those people and those who invest in excavators, go and sit in areas that are not supposed to be working, in the rivers, in our forests. That is completely a different discussion on whether it's a survivor or life. This is beyond that. It is more criminality. So I think we need to all take into consideration all of these aspects and work towards. I agree that our leadership is failing us. Our leadership is failing us greatly. It seems we know what the issue is, but we deliberately play around it, beat around the bush, and really not get to solve the problem. I still don't understand why up to date. We know that the miners are seriously taking our rivers and forest reserves under siege. Every effort to get government to put in just one shot remedial action until we have a clear solution of implementing a state of emergency, the government has refused.
Daryl,
that is wrong.
Just a second. That. Who's speaking? I'm unsure who's speaking now.
I'm the one speaking.
Okay, Mr. Papa, go ahead.
I think he's getting everything wrong. You understand? You cannot do the same thing every day and expect different results. I am in for a solution. And sometimes what we churn out to the public might be opposite from
Mr. Papa. Mr. Papa, I'm sure you've had quite a take on this matter, and I'm sure you disagree with him on the livelihood bit. I'll come back to you on that.
I disagree with the calling of a state of emergency as a tool or as a solution.
Well, I think Mr. Papa, you didn't let me land, and I was coming to that point.
Daryl, land on that point.
Yes, I think we have never said that there needs to be an outright state of emergency across the country. We know in this country that there's certain areas that are so sensitive when it comes to mining that we cannot continue to watch on for people to get in there and destroy. And rivers and forest reserves are critical areas that need to be protected. And we have said the state of emergency as a measure is to keep cover to the forest reserves and the rivers that are currently the major agents that are, or the major areas that are being destroyed. So you need to understand that.
I think,
Pepper, please hold for me, Mr. Pepper. Mr. Pepper, please hold for me.
Say that all areas of this country need to be allowed for them to mine. And I think that for most miners, that is what they wish they could do. But I think there needs to be law and order. And this is where we need to say that let's call a spade and keep people out of areas that they are not supposed to mine and get people to do the right thing.
All right, Mr. Pepper, please hold. No, it's not your turn yet. Please hold for me. Let's regulate the conversation. You've had quite a bite of the issue. I guess we should be asking ourselves, is it about the survival of a few or the survival of us all? It reminds me of Thomas Sankara. We can either have a society where you have champagne for a few or water for everybody. What's your take? I know you've wanted to react for a while.
Exactly. I think Daryl has made the point eloquently. He's made the point. It's not about survival. It's about greed. And let's be clear, those financing the existential threat, they are not hungry people. Maybe those in the pit. But let's be clear, we're being poisoned. I don't think we appreciate the seriousness of the situation. We are being poisoned. As we sit right now, the food you are eating, do you know where it's coming from? The water you are drinking, do you know where it's coming from? Ghana Water has said that they do not remove the heavy metals from the water. So as we sit here sort of playing around the issues, it's very, very frustrating. The house is burning. What we need to do immediately is to put out the fire. Then we can look at these other things. But when we talk about survival, are miners the only people who need to survive? As was rightly said, criminal activity is criminal activity. Let's separate the two. You have, for example, the Peasant Farmers Association. About 2 million of them are at risk of losing their livelihood, and fishermen as well, as a consequence of illegal mining. We have cocoa, which we are depending on. Cocoa plantations are being destroyed. We have the rubber plantations, which are also being destroyed by the environmental terrorists. And we act as if the only people in this world who need an income are miners. Even
I believe
the regime of licensing. Let's be clear. The fact that I have a driving license doesn't mean that I'm going to drive responsibly. So the monitoring is very, very important. And that is not taking place. That is why it was suggested that for now, pause the community mining, even if it's a cooperative, pause it until we get our act together. But I need to say here that this regime has been a little disingenuous. Whilst in opposition, they promised that they would repeal LI 2462. Right now, what is before Parliament is a review, which does not help us in any way.
All right. I'm curious at this point.
All it does is to protect the globally significant biodiversity.
Right.
I'm sorry?
No, I get your take. I wonder whether we still have Erastus Asaridonko. Erastus, can you hear me? I would have wanted to run by him something interesting because he is on the ground to find out what he makes about this dynamic of livelihood versus the general good, and what he thinks about the state of emergency and its impact on maybe even small-scale mining as well as community mining. But coming back to you, Mr. Pepper, I noticed that you wanted to speak a lot on that specific issue. Your point has been made about why dealing with the bread and butter issues are important, but at the same time, we can't walk away from the fact that a lot of these people, they are basically killing the rest of us. How do we address the situation? Livelihood, and so?
I think we need to come together as a country, because something that draws on the survival of our existence is something that is very dear to everybody. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say because I'm a small-scale miner who is licensed to mine and who is mining responsibly. Even if others are doing the wrong thing, I will support it. It's something that, as an association, we have always sided with government when it comes to the fight against Galamsey. We have shown enough goodwill to this country by setting up a task force to augment the plan of government in trying to help salvage this issue we've been faced with. So we are not, and I would retreat that we don't support people who are mining with impunity in our various forest reserves. We are not in support of small-scale miners who are licensed and mining responsibly. We are not the people who are on the various water bodies, polluting these rivers. Whatever we need to do as a country, we are in support of it. So I am not here to defend something that is a criminal act, but I just wanted us to understand that if we really want to solve this problem, these are the facts. And whatever I said is a fact. You can bring people in to check, to investigate, or to bring a report from that. Nobody was born a miner. The people you see who are just, who were even stuck in this pit, one of them was a taxi driver. And later he realized, okay, he needs to survive, so he went into the pit. So we cannot shy away from this survival issue. This is something we need to understand as a country. And in so doing, we need to find a solution. And that is where our professors and our people
taxi driver wants to survive.
who speak good, big English, sometimes, they only say what they think. But we need to come together and find a solution to it. If now people are mining responsibly, and at the end of the day, the countries benefit from the export of gold. At the end of the day,
point made on that. I don't think anyone is shying away from anything, but I keep going back to the same point. I don't know whether I'm sounding like a broken record at this point. These people have to live. But we also say that because of a certain constituency that has to live, all of us ought to die. Think about it that way. Some people have to live. Hold for me. You've expatiated enough on this matter. Some people have to live. No one is saying they should die. But are we also saying that because this constituency has to live, all of us, in the end, have to die, including those people, because they will also be poisoned? But let me bring in Erastus Asaridonko. Erastus, I just wanted to find out, you are usually on the ground. This argument of livelihood always comes to bear. Livelihood versus the general good. What do you see on the ground? Is it really livelihood of these illegal miners? And is the state of emergency the way to go? Is that the solution? Because Mr. Papa is saying it's not necessarily the solution. What do you say?
The issue, part of it is about livelihood, but the majority, the bigger chunk of it is about greed. I totally disagree with Pepra when he talks about the fact that we should not be enforcing the laws and that we should manage it all the time. No, I would say enforcement is key. We can add the other fine bits about alternative livelihood, empowerment programs, education, and all that. But enforcement is key. It is not for anything that the framers of our laws indicated how we should mine. They even gave guidelines on how you should mine in a forest reserve, how you should mine close to a water body, where not to mine. And they stated explicitly clear that you cannot mine in a settlement and you can be jailed for up to 5 years. Now we are mining in settlements. And then you raise issues about livelihood. So the person who is mining in a home, digging beneath people's homes, you don't go and say, I'm managing you, and I continue to mine under people's homes, and I'm going to support you. No, you enforce the law, you arrest him, you make sure that you prosecute him to serve as deterrence to others. The reason why the use of military has failed under Akufo-Addo, under the other regimes, is the micromanaging of these task forces by the people who sent them. So under Akufo-Addo, for example, the soldiers, the Operation Vanguard that they sent out there, they were the same people who were micromanaging them. Go here, don't go there. This side belongs to our own people. Don't go there. Don't arrest this person. Don't do that. If we decouple the political influence from that fight, and we say we're fighting a genuine fight with a political will behind us, Why can't we do that? So because of poverty, we should allow people to pick guns and go into people's homes and start robbing them, and it's justified. No. So we have to do the right thing. There are laws. When you go elsewhere where they are enforcing laws, they don't allow you to do certain things. If you lay claim to a mining area and you want to mine, the guidelines are very clear and they are enforced to the letter. If you joke with it, you go to jail. And that is why people are conforming. So yes, streamline the licensing regime. Do all that you have to do, but enforce the law.
All right.
So if people are mining on water bodies, arrest them, prosecute them. Let them face the full rigors of the law. That is also part of this whole thing.
Sweetie will come in shortly, but on this point about enforcing the law, a state of emergency, what do you think about it? Just brief thoughts on that, Erastus.
I am all for it, because if you don't declare a state of the rate where we are going, I think if you want to really appreciate why we need a state of emergency, you should know where we are headed. Now people are digging beneath homes and people's houses are collapsing. People are mining on water bodies directly. People are invading GSDs, areas that previously were not touched. These are not small boys in communities who want food to chop. These are rich people who are doing it for greed, for the money of it. And so seriously, it will reach a time where water will be very scarce. Water will be very scarce, and we'll pay the biggest price for it. Already people are getting health related ailments from it. It's going to get worse. So if you know that, then you know that we've reached the crescendo. This is the time where we declare a state of emergency in forest reserves, on water bodies, so that we enforce the law, use other means to enforce the law to the letter, and we get people off these places. Then we can retune and fine-tune all the other findings that Mr. Pepra, I agree with him, is talking about.
Erastus, so the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakufibua, explained that they're putting systems in place to track the importation or excavators that are in this country, when they're coming in and what they're being used for. Do you think that does anything to help us to eradicate this Galamsey menace? You are on the ground. Do you think this is a way that we can fix the issues?
It's a fine suggestion. Under the previous administration, they started it.
Yeah.
There is a whole unit at the Minerals Commission where it's a state of the art, I will put it that way, modern unit, which has been set up, which can track excavators in real time. It is sitting there unused. Why we are not using it, I have no idea. But this is where we can do it. We can track. Every excavator that comes in will have to pass through a particular unit to be tagged, to be tracked. All the other existing ones on the field, we can do an announcement for if you have an excavator, bring it for tracking. If we don't bring it for tracking, the next time we find it on the field, we consider it as illegal and it will be arrested. It is high time we keep track and get data of all such equipment on the ground, get them streamlined so that we can monitor them in real time and know what they are being used for. It's one way to go, and I agree with the minister. That is another step that we have to take. That unit is already served, it's sitting there. The people who are manning it go on a daily basis to do their jobs. They have nothing doing, they just sit there. Let's put it to good use. Let's start tracking these heavy equipment and know what they are being used for.
Thanks, Erastus. Ben.
Let's bring in Dr. Steve Mantea, chairman of the Ghana Extractives Transparency Initiative. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Pointed question. When you look at this government's fight against Galamsey so far, with all the surrounding incidents, the loss of a life, the incident in Pasatia, among others, do you think enough is being done? Is a state of emergency one of the core solutions that is being avoided?
No, I do not think that enough is being done. And I don't think that the message is being sent clearly in terms of non-tolerance of illegal mining. But I also recognize that the current approach is consistent with what the NDC promised in their manifesto in the lead-up to 2024 elections.
You say the current approach is consistent with what the NDC promised in the lead-up to the 2024 election?
Right.
From what angle?
They did not really promise any rigorous fight against Galamsey. The manifesto commitments tend to lean more towards the carrot approach. So, for instance, if you look at their manifesto, they cluster their approach in dealing with Galamsey along the various value chain. For instance, around licensing, they realize that there would be the need to ensure that stakeholders at the community level are able to help enforce the rules. And so they promise decentralization of the licensing regime, such that chiefs and local actors will be part of the licensing process and will be therefore able to better monitor operations on the ground and ensure that the rules are conformed with. He also talked about providing support, logistical, for instance, finance, equipment, and stuff like that. I mean, the intent is that once you provide those logistical support and financial assets, those who are operating illegally will be enticed to want to now regularize their activities and do things properly in ways that does not endanger our livelihood, does not endanger the environment and our water bodies. And so they want to use that incentive tool to get them to regularize. Again, they talked about recategorizing mining into various groups, medium, small, and all that. So largely, a careful look at the approach is really not to use brute force as we've done in the past and which have not really helped resolve the issue. So they want to do more on the carrot approach. Now, let me also say that they also emphasize environmental restoration. So you see, they want to plant trees and try to vegetate the savanna area and all the mining areas that have been destroyed by illegal miners. And again, they also want to protect water bodies through the establishment of blue water guards and all that. So that is the Ghanaians, and they are not doing anything differently. However,
Doc, I disagree slightly. I just opened an article where, actually from City News, where Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and I want to quote him, only the NDC manifesto is pledging a ruthless combating of this menace, which poses an existential threat. You need a new government that will come and confront this menace because it just doesn't make sense. Are you saying that the approach we are seeing so far is as ruthless as they promised?
The manifesto does not promise ruthless approach.
These are campaign promises that they made. These are the things they said to convince the Ghanaian people to vote for them. So as much as it doesn't appear in their manifesto, they did say they will use ruthless approaches to tackle this menace.
Yes, that is the statement of a party member, all right? And I'm speaking from the manifesto. And in terms of the ruthlessness that you talk about, what they said is they will enhance regulatory enforcement by applying state-of-the-art technology, including AI, to track excavators. I don't think that actually symbolizes any ruthlessness. I think that approach itself is being tackled by the Minerals Commission, where they are trying to expand their reach. They are building new offices in various places where they previously were not. And I think that it is important that the Minerals Commission, which is the regulator, is present wherever mining takes place so that they are able to enforce. It does not mean they are going to. For me, from my reading, all that commitment does not suggest to me that they want to use brute force. And I make the point that in the past, from the previous NDC regime through the immediately gone MPP government, we've used brute force, and that has not yielded any meaningful results. We need to change strategy. Again, they talk about ensuring that mining operations are not in unapproved areas, such as water bodies, and that concession holders rehabilitate impacted areas. And that is being executed through the establishment of the Blue Guard to protect water bodies. So if you read the manifesto clearly, you get a certain sense of using subtle approaches, not the rigorous brute force type of approach that we used in the past, which did not result in any meaningful gain in terms of stopping Galamsey.
I guess the verdict would be up to you, our guests, to tell us whether we should and must push government to do much more in that regard. But quick thoughts from you, Dr. Mantia, on this as we get ready to wind down. In October 2024, you made mention of the fact that we had to hold local authorities, chiefs and others responsible for the surge in illegal mining. You, in just the past month, on the 19th of March or a day before, you mentioned that chiefs were not fighting Galamsey because they were not involved in the licensing regime. On the matter of chiefs, how much of a role do you think they play, and how much more of a role do you think this government could give them in helping to fight Galamsey?
Well, currently the chiefs are playing no role, except to say that they're actually complicit in the illegal mining. You go to Amansia West, you'll find that a lot of the chiefs are themselves involved in illegal mining. And it is also because we have not assigned them any role. And so if we involve them and ensure that they have a say in the issuance of licenses, then of course they will support at the local level in terms of enforcement of the rules governing mining in this country. And so that I still maintain that position. But I think that our state investigative bodies also could do much more than they are doing currently. I cite the example of the Afenyo-Markin, who, working with the National Investigation Bureau, was able to establish the complicity of some chiefs, I think 3 chiefs, in illegal mining within his jurisdiction. And on the basis of the evidence, he distooled them. My disappointment is that the state investigative bodies failed to follow up on that and to actually hold those distooled chiefs accountable for the actions as established by the evidence on which basis the Afenyo-Markin distooled them. So we left everything hanging, and I think that it creates an opportunity for the chiefs now to go all out in their illegal mining activities because they know more chiefs. And I think that if we don't get actions of this nature by state investigative bodies holding the sponsors accountable for their involvement in Galamsey, we are not going to go very far. We should not persist in arresting those boys that we find in the pit, but we need to look for those who finance their presence in the pit. And that is how, in my view, we'll be able to stem illegal mining in this country.
Well, I guess, sweetie, we can take the final words of our guests.
I want to start with Awola Sewa. She did want to say something earlier, but I don't think we went to her. Awola, you have the final word now.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say that criminal activity is criminal activity. Right. We would not have dialogue with armed robbers and say that because they don't have an income, they can go around robbing and killing people. Criminal activity is criminal activity. But let me say this, the fight against illegal mining, if there was one, was not working because of the lack of political will. As was said, you might be going to a forest reserve, don't turn right, you can go left. And therefore, until the political will is there, we're not going to get anywhere. We need to declare a state of emergency. We are being poisoned, our forests are being destroyed, and our food is also being contaminated. So if we don't do that, God help us. We need to declare a state of emergency to protect our forests and water bodies. And let me add this. Some of the chiefs are very responsible. And we have chiefs against Galamsey. Let me give an example of the chief of Jema. He has ensured that there's no illegal mining there. So some of the chiefs are complicit, maybe many of them are complicit, but the chiefs who are trying to prevent illegal mining, we need to celebrate them and encourage others to do so. And my last word is that the country is burning. The country is burning. Let's stop all these consultations. Get a state of emergency. Go to our water bodies and forest reserves and stop the mayhem. River Combra has been diverted. Has anything been done about it? Get your Navy, get your armed forces, get your Air Force involved, and let's bring this canker to an end. Then we can look at the things that we need to do to ensure that the fight is sustainable and the illegal miners don't continue with havoc. And let's remember that in the beginning, Galamsey was using hand tools. What we have now, the existential threat, is using heavy-duty machinery, not hand tools. And we are all at risk. So we need to sit up and ensure that government does what it should do to protect all of us.
Thank you so much. Aula Sewa is from the Eco-Conscious Citizens Movement. Let me now take the final word from Michael Kojo-Prepra, President for National Concern Small Scale Association. Mike.
I think it's all good, the suggestions Michael members have as well brought on board. But in so doing, I was glad when you called Dr. Mantea. I think he brought clarity to the issue. He built much more on the solution to the problem. And that is what we all sought for. When we know this is the problem, this is how we want to solve it. That is where we make headway. So you would as well, we would not support anything that is, we will not support anything that is criminal as an association. And we are in line with government's quest to manage and solve this Galamsey problem that is being faced with us as a country.
Thank you, Mr. Prepra. Daryl Bosu, your turn now.
And also, I need to write on what Dr. Simatia said about the promise that this government made in the lead up to the election. And one of those promises was the fact that as part of efforts to secure our forest reserves and keep mining out of our forest reserves, they were going to repeal LI 2462. As we see now, they are not keeping to that promise. So I think it's really not keeping good faith with the citizens. And we want to urge the government to really go back to the table, really look at what they are seeking to do now. And the fact that just repealing, just amending LI 2462 is not going to guarantee the security for our forest reserves as is desired. We are requesting for a complete repeal so that we can usher in a more progressive strategy or legal framework for the protection of our forest reserves. And then again, I believe that if really the government wants to reset our environment and also to streamline the mining regime or mineral and mining governance in this country, we need complete overhaul of the leadership across board. We need to tie our MMDAs with deliverables for positive outcomes against Galamsey. We need to tie our police commanders. We need to tie executives at the Minerals Commission for deliverables on ensuring responsible and sustainable mining in this country. If that is not done, I think we are just going to be just doing the same old things, and we shouldn't expect to get any new result. And I think it's important that the government and also all citizens really continue to pile pressure, because it is existential as a threat, and we must all do what it takes to ensure that we deal with this canker once and for all. If we miss this opportunity, we might never have that again.
Thank you, Daryl Bosu. He's Deputy National Director of Operations, Arocha, Ghana. We also spoke to Erastus Asari Donko. Do we have Erastus online for a final word? Okay, we don't have Erastus Asari Donko, Joy News editor. He joined us, helping us put this in perspective. And Dr. Steve Mantiel, you have the final word now.
Well, I am in full support of the call to ban mining in forest reserves. But at the same time, I appreciate the government's difficulty in imposing a total ban. For now, as we speak, small-scale mining is not allowed in any forest reserve. It's only large-scale mining. And there's been contract signed with certain companies currently operating in forest reserve, for instance, Newmont. And so government is mindful of the contractual implications of a total ban. But I think there is a way out. We can actually impose a ban. And since laws are not applied retroactively, it would make exemption of existing contractual arrangements with respect to mining and forest reserve and prohibit any future signing of such concessions. So I think that government should take another look at it and find a legal way around the challenge or the difficulty it has in actually announcing a complete ban of mining in forest reserves. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Steve Mantiao. And that wraps up this conversation. Benjamin, any quick thoughts before we go?
No, none. I mean, we are in an existential threat. We can't keep toying with the situation. It is what it is. We need to crack down on illegal mining to save all of us, else a few will kill all of us and they themselves will be consumed together with it. But before we take a breather, Ghana, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank, period. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, it is durable, and it is built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. It's got you covered. So my people, go outside, check your tank. If it doesn't have a tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. You can call 0244 335 168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough.
Question. Are you ready to dream, dare, and deliver in the world of IT? Then look no further than Jackson Institute of Technology. It's the only NIIT authorized training center here in Ghana. At JIT, we provide world-class IT training for individuals and corporate organizations, equipping you with industry-relevant skills in software development, cybersecurity, networking, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, digital marketing, and more. We offer globally recognized certifications, practical job-ready training, and flexible hybrid learning options which allow you to study online or on-site. Our expert instructors also ensure hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for success in today's digital world. And we're conveniently located on the Ring Road near Circle in the heart of Accra's Central Business District. And in Kumasi, we are at Jackson Educational Complex Headquarters, Ayeduase, near KNUST. Now, JIT provides easy access for students and corporate clients, and our state-of-the-art auditorium is also available for corporate events, seminars, and training sessions. You can call or send us a message on WhatsApp on these numbers: 0596 996 037 or 059 996 038 or 0552 714 635. Or simply visit our website at www.jit.edu.gh. JIT, your gateway to a thriving IT career. Ben will tell you something more.
Well, do stay with us because when we return, we're going to be contemplating the e-levy, which has now been scrapped. The president has put pen to paper, but when will this be effective? This morning, actually, I saw someone send a message in the news review that, the charges have been taken off. He's transacted and it has not happened. So I corroborated with someone and found out that it wasn't true. Immediately, yes, but the GRA and the actions that have been taken, up to when will it take before you will make transactions and there will be no e-levy? We'll have that conversation after the break.
Benjamin, it's a sigh of relief many Ghanaians are heaving this morning. What do you have for us?
It is. The way you started reminded me of the fall of the Berlin Wall. But let's get to the e-levy. And so Parliament has repealed the e-levy. And of course, we also know that the president has put pen to paper on the e-levy. So how long did we have the e-levy in existence? The duration, 2 years, 10 months, 25 days since its implementation. But let's get into why we even came to the point of the e-levy and some of the rationale behind it. So, Ken Ofori-Atta, former Minister of Finance, on the e-levy, he said, the e-levy will prevent the government from seeking support from the IMF. And this was on the 22nd of February, 2022. That's an interesting date, isn't it? 2202-2022. On the 22nd of February, that's what Ken Oforiatta said. The e-levy will prevent the government from seeking support from the IMF. We all know how that went. But if you go to the next slide, the key events in the timeline of the e-levy's implementation. So November 2021, Oforiatta proposes the e-levy. January 2022, it was reduced from 1.75% to 1.5% after a bit of hue and cry. February of that same year, the controversial e-levy cake saga came out. And again, in February, the NDC youth protested against the e-levy. And then, in terms of more events, 29th of March 2022, the e-levy was passed. So from February, March, it was passed. In May, the e-levy was implemented. So if you look at the timelines, on the 29th of March, it was passed. Implementation was not immediate. In May 2022, it was implemented, which also accounts for some of the phases we'll have to go through with the GRA and telcos as it's being phased out. July, government sought IMF support. So if we were to go by what was said in 2022, February versus July, you would realize that there was a disconnect. Government sought IMF support. Then in January 2023, the e-levy was reduced to 1%. So 1.75, 1.5, and then 1%. But then if you come to the e-levy in terms of revenue, what was budgeted versus the actual performance? In 2022, you would realize that, and the red line refers to what was budgeted, the blue line refers to the actuals, what was actually accrued. It was expected that the e-levy would fetch us some 6.9 billion Ghana cedis, and in 2023, 2.2 billion, in 2024, 2.1 billion, and then in 2025, 2.4 billion. But what was actually achieved? In 2022, 592 million Ghana cedis, a far cry from the 6.9 billion. That's a deficit of almost 6.4 billion Ghana cedis. Then in 2023, it yielded 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. And we are where we are now in terms of the actuals. The 2025 budget deficit, if you look at revenue, we're looking at 224 billion Ghana cedis. Expenditure, 281 billion Ghana cedis. Of course, you'd have a deficit. That leaves us with a 57 billion Ghana cedi deficit. And you know that once you are taking away taxes, there must be some measures to recoup the sums or alternative avenues of raising revenue, right? If you look at the 2024 monthly average mobile money transactions, they've been going up in recent times. Now, if you look at it, it's 674 million in terms of transactions per month, and we're talking Ghana cedis. And in terms of the billions of revenue, 250 billion in terms of revenue. The sector minister, Kasilato Fawcett, has been talking about the savings that would be getting from the e-levy being taken away as well. But if you look at the trajectory of active mobile money agents between 2021 and 2024, a space of about 3 years plus, you would see that in January 2021, you had some, let's say, 300 plus, almost 400 million. By May 2022, you would realize the figure was around 458,000. As we stand from November 2024, it was around 404,000, and they are helping raise all of this revenue. If you look at the rest of the period, all the way to November 2024, in terms of the transactions, you would see that we've moved in the millions from about 413 by May 22nd to 745 by November 2024. And we are talking millions of Ghana cedis. The latest report for the first quarter of the year actually shows that these mobile money transactions have gone up by quite a bit. Then in terms of the total value, again, of mobile money transactions in billions of Ghana cedis from January 2021 to November 2024, you would see where it has moved from below 100 billion all the way to about 334 billion Ghana cedis, which means that, in other words, it's been on the ascendancy, the patronage of mobile money, and how much was being raked in from the e-levy. But in another sense, you can also look at it as taking away these taxes, enhancing more people getting into the mobile money situation, and how much that could yield for the economy from other angles, not directly. Then other scrapped taxes, right? The emissions tax, betting tax, all of these as well gone. And if you look at the total revenue raked in from the betting tax, 199 million Ghana cedis, though at the point we were told there was no, betting tax implemented. And then in our final slide, you look at the breakdown of revenue raked in from the betting tax, 51.3 million in 2023 and 2024, 147.76 million. Of course, then you look at that total figure, 199 million Ghana cedis. So this is the tail of the tape, the e-levy and the betting tax. But, sweetie, what do you think about it? Now that the pen has been put to paper, right? Where do we go from here?
I'm looking forward to some cake cutting ceremony.
Cake cutting ceremony?
Of course. Is that not how we started it? We started by cutting cake. I'm looking forward for us to cut a cake to end it. But it's interesting the number of people, even I know personally, who stopped using mobile money just because the e-levy came into play. And
stopped altogether?
Stopped altogether.
This is actually interesting.
No, they stopped altogether. And although many have advised against scrapping these taxes because of the revenue that it was generating for the country, I think time will tell whether or not we are making the right decision right now. However, true to the words of the president, these taxes have been scrapped. But we want to hear from you, our audience. We're doing this for you. What do you think about all of it? Ben has given us the background. In fact, he's given us the rise and the fall of these taxes, particularly the e-levy. What do you make of all of it? The phone lines are open. This is the Have Your Say segment on the AM show. We want to hear what your experiences have been with the e-levy and moving forward, now that although it hasn't yet reflected in the transactions that we're making right now, it will hopefully by the end of the 90th day, which is the timelines that we were given. They said 90 days. And I think by close of today, we'll have just 4 days more to go. Hopefully that will be implemented by then. But call us, let's get interactive. Let's hear from you what you think about the e-levy, betting tax and emissions levy that have now been abolished as of yesterday, Ben. That's what I think.
Well,
cake.
Whoa, yeah, cake anyway. We'd love to find out from you. What do you think so far? As of this morning, if you transacted, it would still be taxed, but there has been that call that the telcos from April the 2nd, any transactions that were made, if deductions were made, they should be returned to those who transacted. What is your take on that? We have Moses calling through. He's our first caller. Moses, where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Moses. I'm calling from Tamale.
Oh, right. Tamale. How is Tamale today?
We are managing. The sun is unfriendly though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
But we are managing. We are moving through.
All right. What are your thoughts for us, Moses?
Yes, my brother. I think this is the greatest move I can see, because if you do a random sampling, and you just ask 10 people what makes them happy this morning, I think all of them are most likely to tell you the e-levy. I wouldn't say the emission tax because that's not so popular to many Ghanaians, but the e-levy and that of the betting tax, which is more common and popular among we, the young ones, I think that's the greatest joy we have as of now.
Well,
okay. Yes, I think that our leaders should listen to us. They should think of us. There are certain things, even though it may be meant for good, but timing is always of essence as a manager. And decisions to, as it were, meet certain needs of your people should be considered thoroughly. This was advised against by literally everybody in Ghana, but we're still forced to, swallow this bitter pill. But today, somebody has thought of us, has listened to us, but I don't want to go the way of politics.
Right.
Because, when you go politics, it spoils the narration. But I think he has actually helped most of us.
All right.
I am in a university. I am in a university currently, and I operate mobile money. And I can tell you that when they come, some would tell you that, look, I just want.
Well, thank you so much for calling. This is the Have Your Say segment on the AM show. You can also call us. We've discussed a number of issues, but particularly we are focusing on the e-levy and the other taxes. William is on the line with us. William, good morning. You're live on the AM show. Did we lose William? I think we lost William. But you can also call us and share your thoughts with us concerning these taxes that have been abolished, although they are yet to take effect. We do have another caller online. Well, we don't have that person online with us yet. The numbers are on your screen, so you can call us and also have your say. On the emissions levy, though, I don't think environmental conscious people will be very too excited about this. And those who are arguing that morality comes to play in terms of, taxing the winnings on bettings will also not be too excited. But
and of course, we've been talking about the situation in respect of Galamsey and all of that. We have the sector minister, Amakofi-Boa, speaking to the issues. Let's find out what he has to say.
Serial coding of all of these excavators to make sure that we can track it with numbering to make sure that they are all not going to get lost anywhere. We have also, as you know, within this short period, brought about the Blue Water Initiative, which target is to train 2,000 young people as blue water guards to monitor and report illegal activities. I said that these are not soldiers, but they are basically security personnel trained to coordinate with the Ghana Navy, trained as intelligence officers as well, trained in swimming to really help the Navy. The Navy is going to create 12 naval bases and basically across these 3 water systems and coordinate with these river guards in a very coordinated manner so that their presence can be felt along the river systems at all times. So far, over 400 young people are expected to complete their training by the 15th of this month of April to make room for the second batch of trainees. The importance of this initiative was confirmed by the sad incident in the Anche district when a policeman drowned in the line of duty chasing illegal miners yesterday. The presence of a trained blue water guard who have averted the situation. Another important initiative within this short period has been the one critical component. I talked about the destruction of 5,000 hectares of our land, almost 7,500 football field equivalent, completely ravaged and damaged, degraded. How do we recover that? We have come up with a comprehensive program, the Tree for Life initiative, which aims to plant over 7 million seedlings to restore degraded and mined-out areas nationwide. The objective of this initiative is to transform heavily degraded areas into functional, vibrant ecosystems that support biodiversity and human livelihoods. This program will not only focus on reforestation, but will also focus on afforestation and also basically educate the people of Ghana on the need to plant trees generally across the country, especially making sure we make it a habit and imbibe this habit in our own school children across the country. And our collaboration with the Ministry of Education on this effort is also very, very clear. Challenges and legal action. As you know, on the 28th of March 2025, the court in Enche in the Western North region released 2 excavators back to illegal miners. Through the concerted efforts and voices of the citizenry and the legal department of the Forestry Commission, I'm happy to note that the court has rescinded the earlier ruling and declared it void. This is a testament to the true power of the collaborative efforts we are calling for in this fight. Let me put it this way. This fight is a collaborative effort and involves a lot of sector agencies, a lot of institutions. And I take the opportunity to urge all of these institutions, including the defense, the police, the judiciary, to play their part. I mean, this story, it goes to underscore the critical importance of the judiciary in this fight. Earlier, we had talked about the scorecard of the past 8 years where 845 people arrested for illegal mining. We could only prosecute 35 of them. We pray that the story is different. We've already engaged the Attorney General, we've engaged the Chief Justice. I'm very happy that Attorney General is taking the necessary step to try to reconstitute and bring back dedicated courts in dealing with this terrorists. And that's how we see them. They are terrorists. There are next steps that we are focusing on. There are major next steps that we focus on. As you know, one of the reasons why we are where we are, that everybody is digging everywhere looking for gold, is that how do we organize them better? And that's our long-term policy. You see that if you look at what this government is focused on, these military actions are very critical. Well, we believe that ultimately, policy interventions and key strategies in reforming the sector are going to play a critical role in dealing with these issues. For example, we have talked about making sure that we basically change from small scale and bring more changes. We are going to have small scale, medium scale, and large scale. We believe that these reforms are very critical. We have focused on empowering and making sure we build the capacity of the Ghana Geological Survey so that we can really do more geological investigation and identify more mineralized areas so that we can now organize people who want to do legitimate small-scale mining in mineralized areas in more organized small-scale mining cooperatives. And that's our focus. We are also focusing on geotagging and geofencing of excavators that come into the country and the existing ones already deployed nationwide. The Minerals Commission already has done some work on an experimental basis with 70 excavators which they are able to monitor 24 hours a day. We believe that this program of geofencing and geotagging must be expanded to include excavators all the way from the port. By the way, we are focusing on discussions, and it's too early to talk about this, but we believe that the time has come for us to basically restrict the import of excavators in this country. It doesn't make any sense that the third most valuable things we import in this country to the tune of 6.2 billion is excavators, which mainly are brought here to destroy our forest reserve and destroy our water bodies and kill all of us. This must stop. And we believe that effort is ongoing. Education is critical, educational campaign, and so we'll continue collaboration with the Ministry of Education, the National NCCE to integrate environmental awareness into the school curriculum and public messaging. This is very key focus of this government. Will continue to do that. So we'll intensify public awareness campaigns and get the people of Ghana to really understand that this is about our lives and the life of our future. You cannot have a country where your 3 water systems are so polluted that the turbidity levels are 5,000 to 12,000 when they should be 500. It means we are drinking poison. And this is what must be a collective fight. We can't allow few people to make money at the expense of millions of Ghanaians and kill us. We must now begin to see them as dangerous terrorists who are killing us. If anybody wants to do genuine small-scale mining, this government is committed to guiding them, giving them licenses, and guiding them on the path of doing small-scale mining in a more responsible and sustainable manner. We will continue to explore avenues of financial support for the reclamation of degraded and mined-out areas. And as you know, one of the key tasks for me as a minister here is to go back to review the entire mining mineral policy of the ministry. It's been reviewed since 2014. I'm very happy that this process has already begun. I'll be announcing soon on the steps we are taking to basically revamp the whole mining policy of the country, to incorporate policy reforms aimed at decentralizing the licensing regime, basically empowering our traditional authorities, empowering our people so that there will be a down-to-up approach in licensing instead of the Accra to district licensing. And as part of that reform, we will also ensure transparency and community involvement. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is committed to eradicating illegal mining. However, given the challenge, complex and multifaceted nature, the government urges all stakeholders, including traditional leaders, local assemblies, civil society, to actively support these efforts to safeguard Ghana's natural resources, to present for future generations, to preserve it for our future generations. His Excellency, the President remains fully committed, and let me put it again. His Excellency President Mahama remains fully committed to his pledge to eradicate illegal mining menace, and as a sector minister, I shall carry through this responsibility to the letter, no matter whose house is God.
And that is Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, actually speaking to the issues and some of the actions that have been brought to bear in the fight against Galamsey.
And that brings us back into the studio, and our guest joining us, we're both sandwiching him, Elton Robe, host of The Pulse on the Joy News channel. You look good. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's good to be here.
And today we've had the privilege of hosting Elton John Robe. He's our in-house honorable, by the way.
Yeah, honorable. Honorable, we want to talk about breaking the fire cycle in Ghana, from ashes to action. Tell us about it.
Right. So
what's the brain behind it?
So tonight, I mean, you know that the Ghana National Fire, so this has been in the news for some time. The very wrong reasons. They go to fight fire and they are accused of not coming with water. They are late. So many issues. But beneath all of these challenges, the fact that the fire service itself is going through a lot of challenges that we may not be aware of. They themselves are saying that the service lacks equipment, emergency equipment to fight fire. You know, after the 9/11 disaster in the US, that's what people came to appreciate, the role of emergency, organizations like the fire service in the United States of America. People had associated with them with only fighting fire, but they're also into dealing with emergency situations. But in Ghana, their response to emergency situation is always questioned, because sometimes they are late, sometimes they don't have the equipment to fight fire. And so what really is the issue? That is what we are trying to find out this evening. As a former presidential correspondent, I remember the many times I went with President Akufo-Addo as a reporter to the police headquarters to donate vehicles and other equipment to the Ghana Police Service. It happened
Fire service?
Sometimes 3 or 4 times in a year.
Do you mean the fire service?
No,
or the police
service. And remember the fire
because
service.
They were getting quite a lot.
Fire service, they share just a wall with the Ghana National, with the police service. And never did we go there to do similar donations. So it's like they've been
motorbikes,
cars, everything. It was happening for the police almost every quarter, the police and the military. But the fire service, for want of a better word, they've been neglected in all of this, retooling. And so in recent fires and their response and the questions that people have raised, we decided to explore the issue. We want to understand what really is going on with the Ghana National Fire Service, the challenges they are facing, and how they hope to deal with it. So this evening, on the dialogue, that's exactly what we are seeking to do. And the Ghana National Fire Service, they are attaching so much importance to the discussion that they want to bring 2 individuals, one in charge of operation, one that will help us understand the real state of affairs at the Ghana National Fire Service, and then try and find solution to it. Ultimately, we want to establish what the issue is, how we deal with it, and going for how we make them more responsive to emergency situations. So we've got the fire service, they will be in the studio. We've got insurance companies, people have had their property destroyed and they are left on their own. Are there remedies that they can explore to recoup whatever investment?
And are people even insuring in these markets and all of that against fires?
And then there's also the issue of victims. If you are if you suffer burns or anything, are there remedies that you can explore to redeem yourself? These are the questions that we are asking this evening. And then we've got policy directive that we expect the Minister for Interior to provide in this discussion. So the Minister for Interior will be here. We've got the fire service. We've got people who are in the space of public safety. They'll also be here. And of course, we've got victims to tell their story. And then ultimately find solution to this very important national assignment.
I'm just curious, and I'm asking for our audience, will there be a point where individuals can call in and also contribute to this conversation?
Of course. I mean, we're going to allow that. In fact, the trigger to all of this is what happened in the Ashanti region, the capital, Kumasi, the Doom area, where fire virtually destroyed an entire market. And some people, that will be the end of their lives. In fact, they will not be able to resuscitate their business. And for them, what would be the remedy? These are some of the things that we want to ask. We'll allow people to share their own stories. And then we'll hear from the National Fire Service, we'll hear from, public safety experts, and we'll hear from government on the way forward.
See, interesting dynamics. And I look forward to this evening. I love these national dialogues. Right. So I'm going to be very close by my television or radio to find out how things go.
It's starting at 6 p.m. sharp, so don't miss it.
Yes, 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. So we've got 3 hours to discuss, to put the Ghana National Fire Service in a proper perspective and to find solutions going forward.
So from ashes to action, breaking the fire cycle in Ghana. We've been joined in the studio by Elton John Brobe. He's a Joy News editor. Don't you forget, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. But before we leave you with the last bit we have for you, happy birthday to the startup leader of Resell Ghana Computer Labs, Brianna Dika. May God bless you abundantly and grant you a long and prosperous life. Wishing you continued success and inspiration in all that you do. It's from Simon Toge, Digital Marketing Manager at Resell Ghana Computer Labs. Have a wonderful day. Happy birthday, Brianna Dika.
Well, that's our show for this morning. And like Elton Bobe will say, whatever you're up to this morning, I hope it is. Elton, wrap up for us. We are leaving.
Up to the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. That's how we end the AM show. Me, Elton Bobe, Shuti Abochi, and for we'll see you tomorrow, same time. But tonight, between 6 and 9, make it with us as we find solutions to the Ghana National Fire Service challenges.
But coming up next is Ghana Grows, Changing Narratives, brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Enjoy.
I wanted to become an engineer. Yeah, but alongside, I needed money to further my education. That was 2008. But there's no one to help. mama nyepa nyingba visually. I'm go okay, ma try. Ma wo fatiraji, basuba me mata kuga akoye squaji. Alabema try la makoba, ma fa mo ba kwerenye. Amate kuga la fuma koye squaji. Tama usko mo last time abono, kajiba because of mama kuga la koye parce que itajo madagbe. Then aba magere aglede dem.
Must grow, let's go.
Ago chuo ko ya de for agleke dem la makung gede la ma because as from la signe e villa signe agbla iko dem la ko de view kon la school afia mo kene ko ko de me do ha
I've been working with Mr. Francis now close to a year now. Working with Mr. Francis is a very good thing because he's not harsh, he's okay, he's calm. So I don't find anything difficult or anything hard in working with him.
You person you kata ibrada. I want to get like grandma.
Nukuyo kata mi do na mopona boba. Lemi bom ya adia do mi have say la mopona mo kata gbo ajri. Agbala lemi dala mi amova ikona gadam. Kana benefit ava mi amova miga gloni sama.
There are a lot of benefits, you understand? Yeah. I'm able to get money from the farm to pay my children's school fees. The guys who working for me, I do pay them.
I get money to settle my bills. Then I got okra and pepper for soup items in the house.
And my salute to my mom is the farm. The Ghana Grow Initiative. Any new year to nya be akperemia gradalawanchi. The veto so he can the jimbo yogada glama. Ike afenyo alo kozu agrada kombo. Amu ka jibo yogada glada dem flyer. Suke kumata na o fufula ko nyamba agrada anya nyu ade. Akemanya am kuviato for do onyo. Egaleme. Many fabani bana lolo ganfina start maybe over backyard garden, start small. And after do the Holland greeted to one now, seed all over. And not do seed maybe alpha the kakra, but who make an aqua, but then will buy Gaika General attack when you can be out. Maybe I'm going to school down crown water. I wouldn't have come. At the end of the day, what I cook for school fees laugh.
Tukumajiba madung se Mr. Francis arus ronye ba adoika gomo mija aro agblede deika gomo ja magahere magbo na yiji miawi
ablede anu nyonya ne wale marashi ro miamo ko do ha miapo bire garacho egbo.
I pray the Lord should give him the strength to carry on with his farm work and for him also to benefit more for me so he can be able to assist people that need things.
The makuru kunya le fa to magbala nyepa gbala na lo la mata ho yuto do view ale the shade agro nku bi the shade community la mi ata dura asivu especially aba yevudu ko amoko hiane e mata we ko ho ata we enko nye Francis Kojo bu abasa agrodela manya Ghana grows hope day.